Look, I was on the front page of the newspaper because I refused to let them bully me. And I told them, look, they raided my gym. I told them tomorrow I'm opening up again. I called my wife and said, look, tomorrow I'm probably going to go to jail. Can't we all agree not to kill the children? I mean, I could agree to that very easily. Do you need convincing? Jordan Peterson is the most dishonest, immoral, filthy dog for tweeting to Netanyahu.
As a Canadian, I agree.
Give him hell.
Yeah.
I'm Lebanese. I'm happy Islam came to Lebanon. People say, oh, Islam spread like this and like that. We're not complaining. Show me one Arab country that says we were brought to Islam and we regret it.
Who wins a 5-round MMA fight between GSP and Khabib? Now,
the T word is equivalent to the N word.
Yeah.
In the future, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, because if you're a particular race, we call you the T word, and you're not a particular race, we use a different semantics.
Yeah.
Is the world too stupid to tell the difference? That guy is he's like a little nerd who never did sports in his life, and he could tell us about combat sports. Dude, you never stepped in our arena. How dare they say this is not our country? First of all, they're not native to the land. Came here, we helped build this country.
You know, in Saskatchewan, Alberta, there are Lebanese that have been there for almost like 100 years.
These clowns like Tommy Robinson. First of all, tell Tommy Robinson, this is dummy. I hope somebody sends this message to him. Migrants commit less crime than native-born British. Less crime. Rape is so low in Muslim countries. It's super high in Western countries. Yes, immigrants come and they commit crime, but that's the common denominator is poverty.
Yes.
Poverty, not their religion, not their race. It's poverty. If you go in the poorest neighborhoods of America, they commit more crime. You go to Latin American countries, the poorer they are, the more crime they commit. You have to be brain dead to be convinced by Tommy Robinson.
Yeah.
You have to be brain dead. You have to be totally brain dead, uneducated. You have to have an IQ level of, 10 to be convinced of his arguments. I think Peterson, honestly, he's not a good example of manhood. I think you can hear in his voice, how his voice cracks, how he got hooked on pills. He's a psychologist who got hooked on pills. Yeah. He claims he has depression, etc., this and that. Okay, I get it. I'm down too, but I don't think I would ever go to. I don't think a man is allowed to be depressed. If you ask me,
you don't have
I don't
a
think
purpose,
a man.
then.
You have a woman. You have a wife and children to take care of. What are you thinking about? Why do you think about you? You don't even exist. Let's say tomorrow men become tyrannical and evil, and they say, women, you know what? You're gonna live in this cell. I'm not saying it's right. I'll be wholeheartedly against it, but they would have no choice but to go and live in that cell.
Welcome everyone to the Life Hack Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Syed, and we are here on location in Montreal, Canada at Tristar Gym with none other than the world famous coach, Firas Zahabi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Life Hack Podcast.
Thank you, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Once again, a big jazakumullah khair for making the time out. I know you're extremely busy, but we really appreciate it. And we feel you have a lot of positive messages to share. And we hope we can make this a little bit more of a unique and more impactful podcast that people can benefit from. So, we just met. We barely know each other. You're one of the top coaches in the game, a brilliant MMA tactician, one of the most insightful analysts for combat sports, period. Even just fighting in general. I saw back in the day some of the breakdown videos of street fights, that you've done. So, but you are also a human being. You're a friend and a brother. So this is going to be difficult. There's a burning question that has captured the imagination of millions of people, and I want you to give me as much of an unbiased take as humanly possible. Who wins a 5-round catchweight, 165-pound MMA fight between GSP and Khabib? Now, let's simulate it. Before you answer the question, if you can indulge me, I want to just run a simulation. So, who has the edge in stand-up striking?
In that regard, I have to give a slight edge to George St-Pierre, because if you look at him statistically, he's landed more strikes in his career, and he seems to get more offense going than Khabib statistically.
Okay. Takedowns and takedown defense.
Statistically, you would have to go with Khabib, because as amazing as George was with his takedowns and takedown defense, Khabib statistically, if I remember correctly, had an edge over him.
Control.
That's an interesting. Both of them at their peak, I would have to say.
They're both known for it, right?
They're both, I would say that's even, very even.
Even, so you're gonna make it a draw.
I'd have to say draw, yeah.
Okay. Ground and pound.
At their peak now, I would say, here I would give an edge to Khabib, I would say. Statistically, he's
And the style is a little bit different. I saw GSP, he would hit more elbows, whereas Khabib didn't do it as much.
Yeah, maybe George was more heavy on the elbows, where Khabib was more punching on the ground. But regardless, they were both very, very effective. And I would say Khabib statistically, again, I'm going with statistics so I can kind of like eliminate my bias as much as possible. I've trained with both guys. Of course, I spent much more time with George. Yeah. However, it's a very difficult thing to call, you know.
Submission.
That's a tricky one. Again, I would have to say, it's very difficult to say because
I'm putting you on spot, coach.
I think Khabib has more finishes statistically. I'm doing this off the top of my head.
Okay.
But George, I would say, has probably more title defenses. So, and George was really in the golden era of the middleweight division. Whereas Khabib didn't really have the counterparts that George had. Khabib's greatest rival was Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor, and those guys suffered many losses before and after.
Yeah.
So collectively, so you had McGregor lose to Diaz, so you can't say he's, you know, the unbeatable guy that had to be beat. He lost afterwards to Dustin. He lost twice actually to Dustin. Dustin's lost to Islam Makhachev. He's lost to, you know, he's looked very human in other fights. Yes. You know, so George beat guys that had a greater pedigree, I would say. So I'd have to give the edge. I'd have to give the edge to George, even though Khabib has more subs. He didn't fight the stiff competition that George did. George had to dethrone arguably the greatest welterweight of all time, which was Matt Hughes, and he subbed Matt Hughes.
Yes.
So you got to build a context, because if Khabib had subbed BJ Penn, that would be the equivalent of George St-Pierre subbing Matt Hughes, because in that era, BJ Penn was, in his era, at his peak, was the best lightweight of all time.
Yes.
Now, Khabib comes much later.
Yeah.
BJ Penn is dethroned by Frankie Edgar.
Yeah.
But if Khabib had subbed, if he was in the same era as a BJ Penn, when BJ Penn was at his peak, and he had managed to sub BJ Penn, that would be the equivalent of what George did, which would be far more worthy of than subbing, let's say, for instance, McGregor, because McGregor doesn't have the expertise in Jiu-Jitsu that a BJ Penn has, that Matt Hughes has. Matt Hughes was known for his grappling.
Yes.
Right? So to sub the grappler, George subbed much more difficult opponents than Khabib did.
Okay. Who takes the least damage?
I would tell you, look, statistically, George in his prime landed the most strikes and took the least damage, statistically. Okay. I've seen the statistics, I've looked at the UFC statistics. However, Khabib seems to be impervious to damage. He never even has a bruise or a scar or a cut or a scratch even, I would say.
Yeah. So have you seen that picture going around online where it's like his after picture of all these fights?
Right.
And there's like not a scratch, yeah.
It's incredible how robust he is. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. So Georgia has taken damage in his career, but less than Khabib. Like he evaded more strikes than Khabib. But the thing is with Khabib is the hard kickers can hurt his leg. The hard punchers can stun him. Sometimes we're not sure, because with Poirier he did wobble, but some of us think he lost his footing because he reacted in a way that didn't seem like he was phased at all. He never shows any damage, which is honestly incredibly rare.
Yeah, it's very.
I can name only a few fighters that have that kind of quality, where you hit them and it doesn't matter. It seems to not matter.
Yeah. Stamina.
Again, this is a really difficult. Look, I've trained with Khabib, and I can tell you that his conditioning it's at the same level as a George St-Pierre in his prime. So it's really both of them there it's a non-question. If they were to fight, conditioning would not be a question.
Okay, so they both evenly. So now, does this fight, the simulated fight between the two, does it go the distance?
I would think so, because they're both incredibly difficult to finish. I think even if they took each other down, the other one would get up. It would be very hard to score. It would be a very controversial ending, because everybody would say, this guy won, that guy won. So I think it would be one of those fights, because both men defensively are incredibly difficult to score against.
Okay. who wins? Unanimous decision, split decision?
Look, if it was a pound for pound thing, I would say it's an even fight. But because George is bigger physically, heavier weight class, even though I think Khabib walks around heavier, but it's not a good kind of weight, you know. So Khabib's more of a lightweight. I would say George has a small edge because he's bigger. But even then, I don't think George is, in the industry we call it walking around weight. When you're not cutting, when you're not getting close to a fight, what are you naturally walking around at? Like when you're eating like normal. I would say Khabib's probably heavier than George. So then again, I can't really say that George has a weight advantage. It's just, it's a very difficult fight to imagine.
Yeah. So that judge's scorecard comes out.
I think it's going to be
your gut.
Pick who you think won. You know, it's such a hard thing to call.
So it'd be a split decision.
Yeah, something like that.
It'd be a controversial split decision, and everybody would be calling for a rematch.
Yeah, kind of thing. That's what I think would happen.
I knew I put you in a difficult position. That's why I started off, you know, I tried to give you your flowers. You know, you're a tactician, you're this, but you're human, and I know it would be really tough.
It would be a very tough fight to call. I would say George was in the golden era of welterweight division, and he dominated the welterweight division. Sadly for Khabib, he didn't have a counterpart. His only counterpart was Islam Makhachev, which was his lifelong training partner. Obviously, they're not going to fight. But he's the only guy, in my opinion, that can hold a chance to beat a Khabib, even though I don't think he reached the level of Khabib yet. But Khabib was he was a level above his division, and for that reason, we never got to see him push his skills to the limit. Almost all his fights were almost easy.
And I feel with him specifically, he had almost like a Muhammad Ali like aura to him, where the way he conducts himself and what he does outside of the ring has probably even a greater impact than what he did inside the ring.
I've had the privilege of hanging out with him, and he's a beautiful human being. I'm telling you, he's my hero. I always tell people, Khabib's my hero. Of all the fighters, from all the fighters I don't train, he's my favorite. You know what I mean? Because I always, you know, the guys I train, of course, I have to favor them. But outside of that, he's my favorite fighter. I think he's not only the best fighter, but he's also the best human being.
You know, we have a lot of, I feel, shared experience, similar experience. We're the same age. You know, I hear some of what you say in the references. I get it because we're from that same generation, children of immigrant parents, you know, things like that. Myself as well, you know, had to deal with bullies, things like that. My dad put me in Taekwondo at a very young age, so that's how I got into martial arts, because of, you know, he saw I kept getting beat up or getting into fights. Okay, the solution back then is like, there's no like parent going to the teacher because you respect the teacher and you're not going to bother the teacher. Okay, I'm going to make you tough, put you in martial arts, right? So I feel that I can relate to a lot of what you went growing up. And can you share with us what was it like growing up? You grew up in Montreal, correct?
I grew up in Montreal, yes.
So what was it like growing up as, you know, a colored kid, immigrant parents, you know, and all the stuff that goes along, all the baggage that goes along with that?
Well, it was difficult because I didn't speak French very well. So when I went to school, I was hearing French, and at home I was hearing Arabic. So I was not very good at Arabic, and because I wasn't studying Arabic, and then I wasn't very good in French because at home there was no French, so I was like half-half in each language. For that reason, my grades suffered for sure. Because when
you're originally from Lebanon?
No, I'm born in Montreal.
No, you're born here, but I'm
born and raised here. Okay. My parents are from Lebanon.
Yeah,
yes. But when I would go home, all my friends would speak English. The immigrants would speak English. We'd watch English TV shows. Everything was in English. Even in my school, it was a school full of immigrant kids, we would speak English amongst each other. And in the classroom, the teachers would speak French to us. So there was a culture war here. The French really want to impose their language on us, and the culture, the subculture, for some reason, was English. Okay, so obviously, if you go into the history of Quebec, you're going to see like they were always in feud with the English, because not only did the French colonize this part of the world, but also the English. If you look at Canada, the only place we speak French is in Quebec. The rest of Canada is completely English. So you're going to have a mix in Quebec as well. Now, they really want to preserve their French. And, you know, I learned to speak French over the years. I married a French woman. That's how I really learned to speak French. But in school, it was chaotic. Why? Because the teachers would speak French to us, and we didn't understand too well the language. Because our culture and our neighborhoods and our day-to-day, you know, whatever our day-to-day language that we would practice was English. So of course our grades suffered. We didn't do well on their tests. You know, the government testing was in French. Our school was very below par. There was a lot of immigrants. We're struggling to, you know, get higher education, I would say. You know, so after I graduated high school and I went to college, and I could enroll in English.
Yes.
That's where my academic career skyrocketed. Okay. You know, I started to understand now what the teacher's saying. I started to write and think, because I think in English, right? When I think, so I could write my essays more clearly. Writing an essay in French was very difficult for me.
Do you feel teachers early on would like typecast you? Like,
no, it wasn't typecast. Is that we were not good at French, so it made us seem slow. It made us seem like we're the guys who just don't get it. They gave us a lesson and we don't understand. But it was a foreign language. I'll tell you, look, I've been practicing French since I'm in this country. My French is still not good. If you hear me talk French, I'm good enough to have a conversation, but I'll make mistakes. I don't understand certain expressions. So I'm not really good at French. My academic career suffered until I switched to English, because now I can express my ideas much more clearly. Now, when I got married and I was married to a French woman and I had children, my wife would talk French to the children. Now my kids, now they understand French a lot better than me. So they speak Arabic, French, English, well, a little bit of Arabic. And I think they can do well in both worlds. However, for me, because at home it was Arabic and my circles were English, when I went to school, it was really difficult, because even when I would read something in French, I could read in French, but I couldn't understand what these words were saying. Now, when I read something in English, it's very easy for me. Yeah. It's second nature. So when I went to college, that's when I really started having good grades, and academia was much more easy for me, much more simple, which, you know, I struggled in elementary, high school. High school was very difficult because it's almost like going to school in a foreign language, almost.
So like education-wise, there was a struggle, but then like, you know, your identity-wise, were you able to like preserve that, you know, your identity, or do you feel like there was a big push for you to kind of assimilate? And
yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Like, I like French. I'm happy I learned French. Yeah. I'm not anti-French. I really, it's a beautiful language. I think learning 3 languages early on in your life is a big plus. However, the downside was it was difficult to read. It was difficult to absorb French. I think learning multiple languages is a very good thing. Very good thing. That's why I want my kids to learn 3 languages. But there's a struggle there, and that's what I think most good things are. You know, that you have to struggle to get them, but once you get them, you're happy you did.
Speaking of struggle, you did mention in the past that you had to go through some bullying. So like, how was that? Like, what was that like?
When I was younger, yeah, I used to get bullied quite a bit because I was smaller than average, and I was tough, you know, but I used to get bullied by the older kids and whatnot, and you know, I had older brothers as well, so I was always on the bottom of the totem pole. Yeah. You know, every time I want something, can't get it. Somebody else took it from you, or you know, it just. So when I saw the first UFC, I saw that a little guy beat a big guy, so I was fascinated. I'm like, oh, martial arts is real. Like, this is proof that martial arts is real. So I became really obsessed with learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because the guy, Royce Gracie, was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I was very obsessed with learning this martial art. So.
Did you see the first UFC on pay-per-view, or did you get the video?
No, I saw the preview of the second UFC. So they were showing the first UFC clips. Okay. I didn't know UFC existed. I was like, wow, this has happened already, and the champion is this little guy. Yeah. So I couldn't believe it. So I started buying every magazine with Royce Gracie or grappling in it or jiu-jitsu. I was obsessed with trying to find out, like, what is this martial art? And of course, over the years, I started training with one of his cousins, Royce Gracie's cousin, Renzo Gracie. I started going to New York. I actually met Royce Gracie several times now. So I mean, I never imagined that, you know, like the industry will grow like this. You know, I thought I was just like a weird guy who wanted to learn this martial art. Yeah. But really, Jiu-Jitsu now is a worldwide phenomenon. The sport is growing immensely. Every year, we see more and more people interested in Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. So for me,
new CGI.
I mean, the sport is growing. Yeah. I think it's the second fastest growing sport in the world. Yeah. People are obsessed with it. People love it. Everybody you can't say the word jiu-jitsu now and people don't know what it is. Yeah. Everybody's heard about it. It's in Hollywood movies now.
My average patients, they'll tell me, oh yeah, I belong to this jiu-jitsu club, or I'm about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, and then I ask them, okay, is it, you know, what do you like about it? And it's really become mainstream now.
Yeah, it's one of the best ways to stay in shape, because it's a lot funner than doing weights or running, and it's a great way to stay fit and flexible, and it brings so many good physical attributes, and also it's mentally stimulating. You're playing chess, you know, it's like playing chess, it's a body chess. I think that's the best analogy. It's fun to learn, it's a fun, training now is fun.
Yeah.
You don't have to run on a treadmill for an hour and be bored out of your mind. No. You don't have to dread your workouts. We actually look forward to our workouts. So, and it's also a great way to socialize. Yeah. You meet people, you make friends. It's a fun.
I noticed there's a different kind of culture with BJJ clubs, right? Like it's the
nerds. It's a lot of nerds.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of nerds who have they like to think. It's like a chess group, you know. And I say nerds in a good way. You know, people who are very cerebral. Now, of course, you have your guys who are just more, you know, more about the strength. However, Jiu-Jitsu, it's very big on attracting the thinking man.
Yeah, and like it's like a built-in sport, I feel, for dealing with bullies, or if you're the underdog, you know. And you know, I remember myself, like you know, starting off with Taekwondo, and if you watch martial art movies, it's all about striking and action. So I remember when I rented the first UFC and I watched it, I'm like, this is not right. I thought it would be like more action and stuff like that. Like, you know, where's those Van Damme kicks? You know, your reference is Bloodsport. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then when you watch it, but then I grew to appreciate it, and we didn't have any BJJ around us. So what we used to do is me and my brothers would just watch these like videos and these tapes, and we were really into Pride. So Pride was like the thing back in the days, right? And then we would just, like, in our little apartment, when we'd go to university, we'd all be in this one bedroom apartment, like really small, and there'd be like a TV on one end and like this sofa with nails sticking out, and we would be practicing these moves and then just like trying to not get like stabbed in the eye with a corner of the sofa, right? So we really developed like this appreciation, right, of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I saw you a few videos, because obviously, you know, we lived online during COVID, right? And since we're on this theme of bullying, because I don't want us to forget, like, there's a lot of stuff that happened in COVID, and people are just like, as if like that, it's like, okay, it's erased, like Control Delete, you know what I mean? But I think there's like lessons to be learned from that.
Oh yeah, I think it was a mania. Yeah. I think it became a mania. I think politicians used it to increase their wealth and their legacy and try to cement themselves for running an office again. I think there was a lot of politics involved, not enough science.
You guys got hit hard here because brother last night was telling me you guys had curfew. We didn't even have curfew.
Oh,
like, like we were bullied there. You guys were bullied even more here.
Here it was insane. It was one of the strictest places in the world. Not the level of China, but I would say we're second or third most strict. Listen, I'll tell you something. They surrounded my entire building. See this entire building, how huge it is? The police came and surrounded this entire building. Yeah. They were like treating me like if I was El Chapo. And just because I was training a few professionals. Yeah. They were out of control. It was a complete mania. There was no logic to it. There was no science. We were actually forbidden to have open discussion about it because the Prime Minister, believe it or not, the Prime Minister of Quebec said, oh, we're not gonna have open discussion because certain politicians were asking for open debate with subject matter experts, not just anybody debating, but have the experts come and tell us why we're doing these measures, why are we implying these measures, how does it make any sense? Because the mall is open, and the mall is jam-packed with people, the big businesses are open, and the little guy's suffering because you shut him down, and that's less places for us to go. Yeah. So why are we all jam-packing? Look, I would drive to the gym by the mall, and the mall would literally have a line up outside. There were just more people in the mall. Yeah. Does that make sense? You have an outbreak and you want to gather people in one giant building. So the big businesses were up and running and more packed than ever. The little businesses were dwindling and dying. To me, that tells me that these rich guys are greasing at least I suspect it. You know, I'm not a naive person. I say those guys are really rich. They're asking these politicians, keep the party going, keep this shutdown going. Because originally we were supposed to be shut down for 2 weeks, came 2 years. So of course I was a voice of, I would say I was a voice of civil disobedience. Yeah. I refused to let them bully me, shut me down. I said, look, when you shut down the malls, I'll shut down my gym. Yeah. But I'm training just professionals. My gym was close to the public. I was training a few professionals. We live in a dorm. I live in the building. Even if I live in the building, they don't want me to train in my gym. But I own this gym. I'm allowed in this gym. That's my gym. Yeah. So I had to suffer some fines. I was harassed by the police on a regular basis. Now, a lot of the police I train. So I have good friends in the police, but also some police measures that were enforced on me, I think were completely unfair, ridiculous. I don't think they stopped one single case of COVID. If you look at what they did in Scandinavian countries, they used common sense. They educated the people. They had no curfew. They had no shutdowns. And they said, look, use common sense. If you're 70 years old and you have comorbidity, don't go to your family Christmas party. Don't go to your family dinner. Stay home, isolate yourself. Use common sense. A guy like me, who's fit and doesn't have any comorbidity, why shouldn't I go out in the world and get COVID? Yeah. Why shouldn't I go? Because now I'll be immune. When COVID mutates, I'll be immune. I've had COVID before. It's not a secret. You don't have to be a PhD in medicine to know that if you had something in the past, you're less likely to suffer from it in the future. That's how we got rid of so many diseases, you know.
Yeah. And also, if you understand the history of virology,
exactly.
The more successful a virus is, the less deadlier it is.
Exactly.
Because if it's deadlier, you kill the host.
If you kill the host, you disappear. The
exactly.
virus disappears.
So the viruses that actually last are the ones that can be transferred from person to person.
Exactly.
And
Edward Jenner, Louis Pasteur, if you know their history, they realized that people who had the disease are less likely to die. So you want to get it when you're the fittest possible.
Yes. Yes.
Now, and if you vaccinate the first world, the third world, it's still incubating in the third world. You're a physician, it's going to come back to you, right? The WHO, the World Health Organization, said, look, if we don't vaccinate the third world, it's only the rich that get the vaccination. Guess what? It's going to keep coming around. Yeah. But
magically, the flu disappeared.
Magically, zero cases of the flu. There's literally zero cases of the flu.
Yeah.
I think it's preposterous, it's illogical. We can't have open debate. You know why we can't have open debate? Because the Prime Minister of Quebec, I'm not joking, you guys can look this up. He literally said, if we have open debate, people are gonna start thinking we're putting microchips in the vaccine. Yeah. Okay, that's ludicrous. Yeah. We're a high IQ population in Quebec, we're not uneducated. We know that, hey, vaccines don't necessarily have microchips in them. Nobody said that, but the fact that the Prime Minister thinks that we're so dumb, that if we have open debate, if we bring a panel of doctors and experts to come and discuss, the people are so dumb, they're gonna misconstrue the conversation for having microchips in the vaccine. Yeah. That's so insulting.
You know what I felt? It was almost like they were leaning on identity politics.
Exactly.
So if you were against the vaccine, then you also, by default, are maybe a racist, maybe you're this,
bigot,
you're that,
you're ultra right wing,
ultra conspiracy theorist, anti government. So
it's a smear.
They
want to
really
smear anybody who disagrees with us. Yeah. But you're a man of science, you're a physician, you know that science, you have to cross-examine. That's the whole point of, we have to test your theories, you have to show us proof. We want a double-blind study that shows that your actions produce actually a result. And they've never produced that. Listen, I could tell you, look, we've all heard about the Fauci leaks, the email leaks. He's saying that those pharmacy masks do nothing in his email leaks. Yes. Let me tell you something. They were reporting $2 million a day of sales in masks at one point at the peak. Yes. Now, if you're making $2 million a day in sales, would you want to stop the party? No, you're going to be like, hey guys, let's keep this party going. Let's push it for another week or two. Let's push it for another year or two. They had too much monetary incentive to stop this COVID crisis.
Pfizer made more in 1 year than they did in the previous 40 years.
They reported, if I remember correctly, it was $60,000 a second or every minute or whatever, something crazy. Yeah. Of course, the stock market went up more than ever, 40%. The rich people are getting rich. Now, let me tell you something. The rich people, it's a puppet show with the politicians. The rich people, they're the puppeteers of the world. They do what these rich people say because they're gonna help me fund my campaigns. It's all about money and politicians. It makes no logical sense. If you look at the death rates did not change. Yes. The death rates are completely stable. Now they're trying to show, look, where are the bodies, man? Yeah. That's what I want to see. Where's the million bodies? Where's all these deaths? Now they're going to try to tell you, oh, well, it's stabilized because people were not driving their cars because we shut down everybody. I don't think, I'm unconvinced. I remain highly unconvinced and highly skeptical. And I think I didn't need those 2 vaccines. And I'll be honest with you, I can't say it's because of a vaccine, but I've never felt I had a heart issue after having the vaccine, and I've never felt, I know my body very well, I know my cardiovascular system very well because I train on a regular basis. My cardio has not been the same since I got those 2 vaccines. People are gonna say, oh, maybe it's because of COVID, maybe it's because of my age. It's possible, I'm open to that. However, I also think it's very possible that they gave me something I didn't need, and they gave it to me against my will because they wouldn't allow me to travel. So I had to take it because they put so much peer pressure on me. However, we know now that taking the vaccine doesn't stop the spread, which they promised it did. Yes. If you take the vaccine, you're gonna stop the spread. Not true, highly untrue. You can have the vaccine, and it's irrelevant whether you're carrying whether you're incubating the disease or not.
Quebec, I want to ask you a question, because in the rest of Canada, this was the case. In Quebec, was it only the pharmacists that were giving the vaccine?
No, we had special centers made up. So
you had centers.
We had centers,
but where we were at, doctors couldn't even give you the vaccine.
Really? Why? Because they think they're going to throw it in the trash. They're going to inject it in a cotton ball and...
They were giving it to pharmacists.
Okay.
And my theory is that they're more compliant with, the drug industry than a doctor would, because I saw more doctors critically pushing back on it.
Right.
And
the pharmacists live off them. They need
pharmacists. They're not going to question. They're not going to question it, right?
Yeah, they're making a sale.
You're going straight to the drug dealer, right?
It's a sale.
So I don't know if they had it here, but you couldn't actually, if you wanted to get the vaccine from your doctor, he's like, I don't give the vaccines. You have to go to a pharmacist. And then the pharmacist literally you come in. They're not even talking about your medical history. You're a young, healthy guy, or you don't need it. There's none of that conversation. It's literally show up, get it inoculated, leave.
Look, I don't deny that COVID exists. Like, I believe in science, okay? I believe but I think that people use this situation to benefit themselves. That's why we have to ask for proof, and explanation. And we want double-blind studies, and we want evidence that these measures actually make sense, because from what I understood, these measures made the rich people richer.
Yes.
They asked Justin Trudeau in the House of Commons, how much did your estate go up during COVID? He wouldn't answer. The answer is 40%.
Wow.
Take what he's worth and add 40%. He's making money. Why should he stop the wheels from rolling? He's perfectly happy. He's getting richer.
Yeah.
So 60 to 70% of small to medium businesses went bankrupt.
Yeah.
People
in front of me, I saw so many people just lose their, they had it for life, building it for decades.
Where are the bodies? We lost our businesses. Where are the bodies?
Yeah. The craziness, how I described it as a mania. I still remember going to a grocery store. I don't know if you had it here, but when you went to an aisle in a grocery store, you had to follow the arrows.
Yes, I remember.
So if you're going down the aisle, I forgot something back there, you can't go back the other way. And I literally saw this with my own eyes, a full-grown man getting yelled at by some lady because he went the other way. And she's not even works there. It's just because it became like this self-censorship, self-policing state where everyone's like, I gotta we gotta stand up for the world.
I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna do my part and save.
Yeah.
Look,
what did it reveal about ourselves? I think I think we should not overlook what it revealed about ourselves as a society.
If somebody's honestly trying to prevent other people from being harmed, I'm with you.
100%.
I think that's good.
100%.
What I'm just saying is we can't make decisions off what politicians say. We want the medical community to come here, give us their propositions, be cross-examined, show us double-blind studies, show us proof that their method is proven, and then implement it. That's all we're asking. We want proof, because I don't want to obey a politician's whim.
Yes.
He's here to work for us. We're not here to abide by his rules. Our politicians made rules that make no sense whatsoever, and they admitted it, that they didn't have medical experts' opinion. They made these decisions on their own. Why? They're trying to grease their pockets. They're trying to re-elect themselves. That's their incentive, and that goes against the people's interest. If you show me a double-blind study, and it's doable, I mean, we all understand the scientific method, right? You test your theory, we have a double-blind study, you show us the proof, okay, I understand, we're gonna save lives. No such thing was done. If you look at the Scandinavian countries, they went completely opposite to what we did, and their numbers are identical. The number of infections are identical as us. So we just showed that we spent, Canada incurred the second biggest debt after the USA. Yeah. We have mass inflation. It's incredible to me how the regular person doesn't understand inflation. They think, people were happy, I'm gonna stay at home and get a check. I don't have to work, I stay at home and get a check. Guess what? That check is gonna make you poor. Yeah. Now go today and try to buy your groceries. Now, if you wanna buy romaine lettuce, it's $12. I used to buy it for $3. Now it's $12. Now, was it free? Yeah. Are you happy with those free checks you got? You think you were getting a free ride?
That check was actually an interest-bearing loan.
Exactly.
That's what they don't understand. They didn't understand. It's an interest-bearing loan.
The average person doesn't understand when they print money, they're indirectly taxing you. Yeah. It's an economical slavery. People in my position were taking loans from the government just to stay alive. But guess what? You got to pay him back with interest. So now he basically owns every surviving business. He has a share in it now. Yeah. He's getting interest on the capital he gave years ago. I don't want him as my partner. I don't want the government as my partner. I want to pay my fair share. and own my own business. That's why we came to this country. Now he wants to put me in a headlock and then tell me, look, if you want out of this headlock, I'm your partner from now on. You're going to pay compound interest to me. It's economical slavery. We know what it is. We're not dumb. We're not uneducated. Unfortunately, the average person doesn't do their homework. They don't care. They just think that check is coming in and I can relax and I'm happy to get that check.
You noticed if anybody spoke out, for example, if you tried to speak out and you weren't in lockstep with public policy, they're going to try to cancel you.
Exactly.
And so there was fear. I know a lot of people privately, I don't like this, I don't want to do this. And it's almost like they were coerced, they were forced to bend the knee, take it, and shut up.
There's a time for civil disobedience.
Yeah.
Not breaking the law,
Yeah.
but civil disobedience.
Yeah.
And within the law, protest, let the politicians know that we won't accept this. We want proof, we want evidence. And you know, Fauci said the most disgusting thing ever. And look, I have a degree in epistemology, okay? I understand what logic is.
Yeah.
Formally, I'm formally trained in their schools. I have their diplomas.
Yeah.
He said an attack on Fauci is an attack on science itself. No, my friend. No, my friend. In science, there is no clergy. Yeah. There is no pope of science.
But it's been
science is all about cross-examination, questioning, test, show us proof. It's not I say something and you obey. It doesn't exist. That's not science, okay? There is no pope of science. He's trying to tell us that if you go against what I say, you go against science itself. You know what? That's the most unscientific statement you can make.
Yes. And the rhetoric was, you don't believe in science, as if it's a faith, as if it's a religion. But you don't believe in science, it's a methodology. You use science. It's like, do you believe in this hammer? You know what I mean? Like, and people were just question, oh, you don't believe in science?
One of the most famous words in history is see for yourself. Hassan ibn al-Haytham, the inventor of the modern scientific method, said, look, here's my hypothesis, here's this test that I ran, it's repeatable, see for yourself, do the test yourself. See for yourself is one of the most important words in the history of mankind. That's the scientific method. The scientific method has to be repeatable. History is not science. Science, I have to be able to repeat it. You went through some type of history because once you do the test, it's a history. Okay, I got to be able to repeat it under the same conditions, and I have to have the same results, or else I'm going to say that your results was a one-off. Something went wrong. Your findings are untrue. Everybody has to be able to verify your claims. That's science. Fauci to say that, take my word for it, my word is law, that's ludicrous. That flies in the face of everything we've ever learned about science. Don't ever forget, science is, quote, see for yourself. Okay? That's what science is.
Yeah. No, what I saw, and that's why I speak to, I started off with the bullying thing, because I felt like one of the benefits of somebody's overcome something like bullying is they have more of a courage. It's like they've broken down that barrier. You know what I mean? When you've beaten a bully, like, cause it's the aura of the bully that's more intimidating than the bully itself, right? But a lot of people were just fear. Like, I remember, I spoke out to a certain degree. Like, I'm not a big name like yourself, but to a certain degree. But I'm still a professional. I'm still plugged into the system. And I had many brothers messaging me. It's like, man, you're crazy. Don't you know you're gonna lose everything? You're gonna be canceled. And there was this fear, and I'm like, why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid? And I just saw this as a common thread, with the way I see you speak, or I've heard GSP also talk about he used to be bullied, and the way he speaks, I can connect. I'm like, I know what he's talking about, because when you overcome that fear is gone. Like, you're willing to kind of challenge authority when it's relevant, whereas others, they're like.
There was definitely, listen, the government was bullying us. Yeah. Look, I was on the front page of the newspaper because I refused to let them bully me. And I told them, look, they raided my gym. I told them tomorrow I'm opening up again. I called my wife, I said, look, tomorrow I'm probably going to go to jail because they're going to come here on the mat, they're going to want to arrest me. I refuse to stop training my professional fighters. We live in the dorm. I have the right to be here. I have an address here. I have the right to be here. You cannot kick me off this premise. And if tomorrow you want to kick me off, come bring your handcuffs. You're going to have to handcuff me.
Man, loved ones had to die alone. Right?
Very sad.
Loved ones, and you had to hug people through plastic. Like, the insanity was crazy.
Right. And again, look, the death rate in children was 0. Yet they wanted me to mask my children. Now they're saying, oh, it's going to stop them from spreading. Look, you're touching a mask. You're a physician. You're touching a mask 20 times a day, 200 times a day. My kids are wearing pharmacy masks. They don't have a seal. Okay, we know that if a mask doesn't have, if you inhale and the mask doesn't cave in, there's no seal. You're just breathing the air like everybody else. Okay, this is theater. It's COVID measured theater. It's all theater. These kids are touching the mask every day. If there's COVID on that mask, if mask is filtering COVID, how many times does that kid know that every time he touches his mask he has to sanitize his hands? No, of course not.
And you were allowed to take the mask off when you eat, right?
It's insane. It's insane. My kids are on the bus. All the kids' masks are sideways and this and that. Look, it's theater, man. These kids are all bunched up together.
And you know what the studies show us now? Masking and all of that stuff has
gave them respiratory disease.
Respiratory disease, and it's delayed their education. Because a lot of how you learn is by looking at facial expressions, right?
They're emotionally stunted.
Yeah. So it actually...
Kids are drawing pictures with no mouth or nose. Yeah. Kids in kindergarten are drawing pictures and there's no mouth or nose. Yeah. So how do you learn to read somebody's expression? Yeah. Now they're going to be emotionally stunted. So, and also look, I went to the hospital, and this is a bit anecdotal of course, but they were saying, I was talking to because it was so full of young kids, they're like, oh yeah, we have a huge spike in respiratory ailment. Because now they're taking the masks off, right? Now their environment is too toxic for them. They're used to having a barrier between them and their environment. So yes, the mask protects you of certain things, but it doesn't protect you from COVID per se, because COVID, it can pass through a mask. But the dust that you're used to inhaling, the pollutions you're used to inhaling, now your lungs haven't adapted. Yeah. So what was the point of us putting a mask? And you know what, I'll tell you something. I had a physician come in the gym, and him and his son were masked. They were doing Jiu-Jitsu. And I took him to the side. I said to him, look, can I ask you a question? I said, why are you masking your son? You're doing Jiu-Jitsu. Like, you're in the mix, you're in the pit. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's to protect. I said, do you really think it's protecting you? He's like, well, I'm a physician. I said, okay, fine. But your son, I said, those are not organic materials on his face. He's inhaling what exactly? Those are not organic materials. There's glue in that mask. There's other chemicals in that mask. How do you know? He says, I wear it all day. I'm a physician. I said, yeah, but he's not finished developing. I'm just asking you a question. I asked him a question. Do you think it's wise, because we don't have any long-term studies on children wearing masks for 8 hours a day. We don't have that. That doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, if a double-blind study doesn't exist, you cannot state any facts. Yes. It's all hunches and hypotheses. I'm telling you, do you know what a long-term effects does for somebody sniffing or inhaling glue and chemicals for 8 hours a day while he's growing? The kid was very young. He was maybe like 12 years old. I'm like, do you really want to put something synthetic on his face for 12 hours a day just because you have a theory that it might filter out a germ while we're wrestling and the mask is shifting? Yes. And you're touching the mask on a regular basis? How is that blocking anything? Mm. The next practice came in without a mask. And he's like, you're right, that makes no sense. Yeah. It's groupthink. Even a physician, even a physician who's well trained, he just never asked himself those questions. Yeah. He just never asked. These masks.
I've never seen as many cracked teeth in my life as I did after COVID. Because you get a lot of patients, they start coming in. And the reason for that, physiologically, is that when you don't have, the most healthiest breathing is nasal breathing, so in and out. Of course. And you can't breathe as well with the mask on, so you're compensating with your mouth. So when you're doing more mouth breathing, that's the more unhealthiest type of breathing. And it causes people to subconsciously clench and grind, to reposition your tongue and your jaw to allow for better oxygen exchange. I've never seen so much, I'm literally seeing people come in with huge cusps and their teeth broken in half. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I'm like, this has to do with masking because they're not breathing properly.
Listen, there's a famous book called Shut Your Mouth. Yeah. It was written, I think, in the 60s. They have so much study of when you sleep, you have to close your mouth. When you breathe, you should breathe through your nose. Yeah. They did a famous study on monkeys where they plugged the monkey's nose with silicone, forcing them to mouth breathe. The monkeys that breathe through their mouth had a deformed face.
Yes.
Their jaws wouldn't push out. Yeah. Okay, they have less space for their teeth, etc. You know this, okay? Yes. But the general public doesn't know. It's very important to breathe through your nose and close your mouth. That's our natural disposition. You have, I forget what it's called, but there's like a fissure. How do you say that? The top of your palate is not completely.
There's a suture in between.
The suture. If you put tongue pressure behind your teeth when your mouth is closed, it shifts, it opens up, makes room for your teeth. My kids have braces. Why? They probably sleep with their mouths open during the night. Why do we sleep with our mouths open? Well, that's a long story.
Yeah. I can talk to you, by the way.
There's plenty of evidence that you should close your mouth when you sleep, and you should breathe through your nose. There's nothing good that comes from breathing through the mouth. I've even heard experts say that breathing through your mouth is the worst, the biggest danger for cavities.
Cavities, cardiopulmonary disease, even probably a lot of mental illnesses can be attributed to that. Right. Do you know that it is indistinguishable between a child that is not breathing properly, with the symptoms of that child and a child that supposedly has ADHD. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these children that have this ADHD, it's actually very well that it's a breathing issue. but then we're just giving them medication to treat them for
Why
ADHD.
not? They make money off our children.
Right?
It's a $1 billion industry, this whole ADD thing. I would never give my kids any of those drugs. Not because I don't believe in medicine. I just don't believe that their interests are aligned with my child's. They want to make money. They see my kid as just another customer.
You know what I feel that we as Muslims, we have an advantage of, because we know about the fitrah. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created you to be strong and healthy. But when you divert from that, that's when you become unhealthy. That's when you become anxious. That's when you become unsettled. You don't have the peace within you. I think with our bodies, we're designed. We're designed to be healthy and strong. We're designed for movement. We're designed to be naturally strong, to resist diseases. But then you pump people with like artificial chemicals. Their food is artificial. The modern lifestyle is very unhealthy. It makes the person weak. And then in that state of weakness, you go to that same well that poisoned you for medication, for cure. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these medications, they all have side effects. And you end up, for example, a person, they get on Lipitor or they get on these cholesterol medications. You're on it for life. Once you start, that's it. You have to have it for life now, right?
I always say, look, diet and exercise is the most important. And after that, I'll go to medicine. Because I'm a believer in medicine as well. Okay? I think medicine has its place. However, first you have to have a proper diet and proper exercise. And if you fine-tune your diet and you fine-tune your exercise regimen, you could remove the vast majority of non-genetic diseases. And even I will tell you, I'm a big believer in food. Let food be your medicine, let medicine be your food.
100%.
I find that every time I have a problem with my system, I change my diet or I think about my diet, I experiment a little bit with changing my diet, and it resolves my ailments. However, there are certain things that are genetic or whatnot, or unavoidable, your environment, etc. Okay, go to medicine, but we have an over-reliance on medicine. That's what I'm trying to say, is that everything now is a pill. Well, guess what? That pill is going to give you another problem, a side effect. I really enjoy the works of Dr. Weil. Dr. Weil, he says, look, he's a naturopath and a medical doctor. He says, look, always try the natural way. If that doesn't work, then we'll explore medicines, but medicines always have a second a secondary, what do you call it again?
The side effects.
Side effects, excuse me. And you know, that's why I always go, diet and exercise. I'm a big believer in this. And I think if people understand how to properly diet and exercise, you have a sense of well-being.
Yeah.
You feel good. It's actually addictive because I want to do more of this diet and exercise. I want to fine-tune it even better because I get a natural high. I get a natural feeling of well-being.
Yeah.
Whereas these drugs, they don't give me a natural well-being. I actually despise taking medication because I know that it's going to take me away from this well-being.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Like, exceptionally, medications, they have their benefit. But then, you know, in a society where everything's become modernized, we want that quick fix, fast food, everything, then it's like, okay, well, how can I quickly do this? But then there's a difficult conversation for a doctor to say, like, listen, you got to completely gut out your fridge, and you got to have a completely different diet, and you got to get moving, right? Medical doctors do not usually have that conversation.
No, they're not trained in they're not trained in food. They're not trained in nutrition.
Exactly.
They have maybe like 3-4 hours of training in nutrition.
Yeah.
The rest, it's all about cutting them open and giving them a drug. That's what they know. Yeah. So when all you have in your toolbox is a hammer, every problem is a nail.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So we can't fix you. We're cutting you open or giving you these drugs. Well, we can't help you. Go away. There's a far better approach, in my opinion. You can avoid all these issues. Like, for instance, like during COVID, they closed all the gyms and they opened the fast food industries. Well, guess what? People got fat.
Yeah.
And guess what COVID kills most? People who are overweight. That's the number one. That's the number one most vulnerable, the elderly and overweight. Well, I wasn't scared of COVID. I have doctors who train in the gym. They're like, well, you guys are young and fit. If you get COVID, it won't be a problem. Well, that's the whole point. I want to stay young and fit. Yeah. I want to stay young and fit. Let me tell you something. You want to get old? Don't eat well and don't exercise. You're going to get old real quick. I'm 44 years old and I wrestle every day with 20-year-olds. Literally every single day, professional fighters. I feel just like when I was 20. Wow. Now they want me to go on these pills and they want me to do that. Are you kidding me? You want me to stop training? If I stop training, I will get old. I'll become like you. I'll become sick and fragile and scared of COVID like you. Yeah. I'm not, listen to me. When I was going to bed at night, I wasn't scared of COVID. Yeah. I was scared of them coming trying to destroy my businesses and my gym and etc. That's what I'm worried. I'm worried about the government. I'm not worried about COVID-19. Now, I do understand that some people are vulnerable to COVID-19, and I'm all for protecting them. I'm all for my tax dollars going in, creating a program for protecting the elderly, feed them, entertain them, take care of them. I'm all for that, 110%. Yeah. But I'm not susceptible to COVID. Why can't I go to work?
Yeah.
It didn't make logical sense, and me, when something doesn't make logical sense, I'm not easy to I'm not easy to
convince.
To convince.
Yeah. I want to shift gears here for a second here. You said one of the reasons you got into martial arts was Royce Gracie.
Yeah.
So Royce Gracie has accepted Islam. Right? Alhamdulillah. And you've been in the UFC for a while, like you've been in obviously martial arts and so forth. And I noticed this, and perhaps you can also comment on this. I noticed there was a shift in that world, that whole martial arts world, because UFC at one time was very close with US military. I don't know if you remember, they always used to do like events with them and promote them and things like that, right? And because of that, there's concurrently the war on terror, there's a little bit of an anti-Muslim sentiment, you know? And when I spoke to Jake Shields last year, he said how much his perspective on Islam and Muslims has shifted, you know, from what he used to think before and what he was fed. Now, many other high-profile fighters are Muslim or accepted Islam. Kevin Lee, I think he used to train here, but he accepted Islam. There's a video of Alex Pereira, even he's giving his shahada. Gervonta Davis, you know, the boxer, accepted Islam. Even Amber LeBrock, a female MMA fighter, she accepted Islam.
I think I've trained with her once upon a time. I gave a seminar once. I think she was there. Yes.
Yeah. So she's and like full hijab, everything, right? So have you noticed this shift as well, like that Islam is like Muslims? The perspective has changed, and why do you think that has happened?
Look, I've never seen a religion get so much bad press. Since 9/11, even before 9/11, it's just every day there's non-stop propaganda how Islam is bad. And I've never seen a religion get accepted so much. So every country I go, I see converts. And in MMA, there's plenty of guys converting to Islam. They keep telling you don't convert to Islam, and the youth and the people just keep converting to Islam. Why? Why? That's the question. I have to ask yourself why. Look, I'm Lebanese. I'm happy Islam came to Lebanon. People say, oh, Islam spread like this and like that. We're not complaining. Show me one Arab country that says, oh, we were brought to Islam and we regret it. No, there's not one. We're all happy to be Muslim. If you don't want to be Muslim, you don't have to be. But here's the thing. We're a growing population. Those who have come to Islam, we're happy about it. In the West, they abide by liberalism. Okay, we have two competing ideologies. Liberalism, popularized by John Locke. I'm a philosopher. This is my domain. I studied liberalism for many years, decades. If I could put you liberalism in a nutshell, it's be happy, don't harm others. That's liberalism in a nutshell. Find your happiness, do what makes you happy, and don't harm others. On the surface of it, it's a very beautiful ideology. I don't have anything wrong with that. Hey, you found happiness and you're not harming others. I won't say that's bad. I don't think that's a complete way of life, and I'll explain why very shortly. But this is their outlook. Our outlook is, most important thing is God. Number one is God. We transcend our need for happiness. Yeah, happiness is important, but it's not more important than God. We have something that unites us all. In liberalism, if you're a liberal family, your wife might be a vegan who does yoga. Your son might be into punk rock. Your daughter might be, I don't know, she's an artist and she has her own way of life and her own outlook. Your sister might think she's a man. She might have, she's allowed to go find her way. Everybody's finding their way. So they all divert in path.
Yeah. People can also identify as animals. And
anything you want. Anything you want. Just don't harm anybody else. So what happens is you have everybody going on their own path. There's no more nucleus. The nucleus is the nuclear family. Now, if you tell these young kids at a young age, hey, you could be a boy or a girl, you decide. Well, I'll ask you, why don't you ask him if he wants to smoke or not? Why doesn't he decide? Why don't we go further in liberalism? Why don't you ask him if he wants to drink or not? That's his choice. Maybe it makes him happy. I tell my kids, look, you're under my supervision. I'm here to make choices for you because you're not an adult yet. You're not able to think for yourself. Because if I presented you, hey, you want to eat this or that? He doesn't know what's better. He'll eat candy 24 hours a day. He'll drink sugar all day long. I'm here to tell him, no, I have to cut your sugar, even though it'll make you temporarily happy. Why are you limiting my sugar? Because I want long-term happiness. Islam is thinking about long-term happiness, afterlife happiness, because them all they see is now happiness. Okay, now, in Aristotelian thought, they tell you, look, why do you go to work? Well, I go to work to get my paycheck. Why do you want to get your paycheck? So I can have money. Why do you want to have money? So I can feed my family. Why do you want to feed your family? That makes me happy. Oh, once you reach to happiness, I don't have to ask you, why do you want to be happy? That's the desired state. So in Western thinking, Aristotelian thinking, it's all about just be the state of happiness. But you don't realize that happiness is always fleeting. You're happy, then you're sad. Then you're happy, then you're sad. It's always a constant cycle. It's always a constant cycle of temporary happiness, then I have to chase another wave of happiness.
The pursuit of happiness makes you depressed.
The pursuit of happiness, you know what I tell my children? I tell them exactly, I tell them, look, if you chase your own personal happiness, ironically, you're going to be depressed. Because you're going to find it's never a thing you can hold and grasp. It's always fleeting. And it's sad that it's always fleeting. It's never in my grasp. But when you believe in God, when you put Allah first, you know that Allah can make everything right. Every time I think of God and I see something I perceive as evil, I realize, oh, that's temporary. Now I flip the tables on life. It's all temporary because I have a promise from God. And this is what we call self-transcendence, something bigger than me. They're trying to live in their own bubble, but what happens is you start realizing that it's a selfish world. You care about your own happiness, I care about my own happiness. And then we become friends just because we can help each other with our happiness. But you really truly care at the heart of it all. You only care about yourself. But when I tell you, no, I love you for Allah, that's different. I transcended me. You know, in the West, they have a famous thinker named Abraham Maslow. He wrote the hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Okay, the most base desires are most important originally. So if you're freezing and you're hungry, you're not thinking about higher things. You're thinking about, I need shelter, I need warmth, I need food. Then after that, you go up higher on the echelon of the pyramid. You start thinking about security. Okay, I want security. I don't want to feel under threat. Okay, now you have food, you have shelter, you have water, you have security, you're at ease, you have peace of mind. Now what else do you want? Well, he says you want to be accepted by your peers. You want to have a social circle. You want to have friendships, relationships, etc. Okay, that's higher up. Because if you're starving to death, nobody's worried about the relationship. They're worried about, hey, I need food. Okay, I have food, I need security, I need to protect this food. I want this food on a regular basis. Okay, now, I want to have a relationship. I want to have a network of people. Then after that, I want to have success. Okay, I want to have success. I want to self-actualize. I want to be the best I can be. I want to have accolades. You know, people don't know this, but he rewrote his pyramid later on because he realized that self-actualization, exploiting your true potential, is not enough.
No.
He still finds misery at the end. He says, look, he rewrote his pyramid and the top of the pyramid now is self-transcendence. I have to have something beyond me. There has to be something in this world that's beyond me. Now, most people can never think at this level because in the West, it's taboo.
Yeah.
It's taboo. Just stay at the level of happiness. Any talk above that is, oh, that guy's crazy.
Yeah. You know,
that guy's crazy.
It reminds me, I did almost like a little mini social experiment. We were giving a talk to some sisters, so there are a lot of mothers in the audience. And I asked them, I'm like, what makes you the most happiest? Like, what do you love the most? All of my children. Like my children, my child. And I said, has your child done more for you materially or you have done more for them materially? He says, there's no comparison. Like the hours, the time, everything. I'm like, you've poured everything, all of the like material thing, and you're not getting any material return. Yet this is the thing that makes you the most happy, that you've been giving, and this is what you love the most, what you're giving. And so from a materialist lens, it's counterintuitive.
This is a great example of self-transcendence. Yeah. You know, now in the West, they have something called dinks.
Yeah. Dual
income, no kids. Let me tell you something. You're dual income, you're still the poorest people I've ever met. This is the poorest movement I've ever met. Yeah. Okay, you don't have kids. Yeah. Let me tell you something. When I go into university, they gave me the hard sciences: survival and reproduction, Darwin. They put me Darwin, survival and reproduction. Then I go into soft sciences. Don't reproduce. Don't reproduce. No, you don't need kids. You could be gender study. You could be a girl. You could be a boy. You could be dinks. You know, the soft sciences, where there's no right or wrong answer. It's all subjective. Yeah. it's almost like they're programming themselves not to survive and reproduce. Now, I'm a big believer in survival and reproduction, okay? I don't get into my ideas on Darwinism. I think there's a major misconception about, but that's another topic for another day. Islam is really good at surviving and reproducing. That's the natural way. I have an inclination to survive and reproduce. You have to give me some kind of brain, I don't want to say brainwashing, it's not an actual scientific term, but you got to really program me, really, like you have to start at youth for me to stop this genetic drive. You're telling me my whole genetic drive is to survive and reproduce. Physically, I'm a machine that's built for survival and reproduction. It's like if a car came to life and I convinced it not to drive. My whole point of life, biologically speaking, they're telling us, look, if we study the biological machine, it's made to survive and reproduce. Now, these people are conditioning me socially to not survive and reproduce, to make it think that non-survival and reproduction is cool. Well, guess what? In liberal states, their birth rates plummet. They need people like us to come to this country and pay taxes and work, and we reproduce, and they want us to think like them. But you brought me here because I don't think like you. You brought me here because I brought a material element, survival and reproduction, that you don't have, that you're suffering from. Don't ever let anybody tell you, oh, they bring immigration because they're kind and they have open hearts. No, they need taxpayers. This country is built by immigration, okay? This country is built by immigration. Yes, of course, we're working together with the natives, okay? Now, the natives are actually the Native Americans, but the Europeans came here, they founded this country, they founded a country. I shouldn't say they're not the country, because there was people before them. They were massacred, okay, that's a different topic for another day. And I sympathize with the natives, the Native Americans. But I'm saying we are two sides of a coin, okay? They need immigration. This country is great because of immigration. Don't ever let them tell you, go back to your country. What are you talking about? What country? This is our country. You know, in the UK now they say, send them back to their country. No, my friend, this country exists because of us. We came here and we built this country alongside you. Your economy is run by us. How dare they say this is not our country? First of all, they're not native to the land. They're not native to the land.
You know, in Saskatchewan, Alberta, there are Lebanese that have been there for almost like 100 years.
Yeah, exactly.
They brought them because they gave them farms. They needed people to work the land.
They brought us here because we serve a need for them and they serve a need for us, and I see it as a partnership. And that's what it is. But don't ever let them tell you in Canada, go back to your country. Don't ever. I know I've had that. People tell me, go back to my country. What are you talking about? What country? We came here, we helped build this country. We're a great part. Take all the immigrants out of Canada. Canada's economy will collapse. What do you mean go back to our country? You'd be starving to death if it wasn't for us. It's an ignorant statement, go back to your country. First of all, stop displacing our countries. Let me tell you something, okay? The bloodiest expansion in history is the British Empire. They killed more people. You want to talk about a violent expansion? The most violent expansion in history was the colonialism of the British Empire. They killed more people, they displaced more people. You're the reason why we have to leave our countries. You're the reason why we have to leave our countries, and you need us on top of it. It's an ignorant thing to say that, oh, immigrants are the cause of our problem. These clowns like Tommy Robinson. First of all, tell Tommy Robinson, this dummy, I hope somebody sends this message to him. Migrants commit less crime than native-born British, less crime. Rape occurs in Muslim countries at a far less, rape is so low in Muslim countries. It's super high in Western countries. Yes, immigrants come and they commit crime, but that's the common denominator is poverty. Poverty, not their religion, not their race. It's poverty. If you go in the poorest neighborhoods of America, they commit more crime. You go to Latin American countries, the poorer they are, the more crime they commit. The kid's born in poverty, he can't make it. It's a lie. There's a reason, they complain about, oh, the government's putting them up in hotels and us, we're starving. They put them up in hotels because they know that they're investing in them now. Tomorrow they're going to pay back into the system. Immigrants pay more into the system than they take out. My parents, when they came here, they were broke, they were making it, they were struggling, they were pioneering. They made it. I pay taxes, they pay taxes. We pay through the nose in taxes, and we're happy to. We're contribute to this country. Don't you ever say that immigrants come and they cost us money. No, immigrants if you took immigrants out tomorrow, which is this moron, I don't know how, you have to be brain dead to be convinced by Tommy Robinson. You have to be brain dead. You have to be totally brain dead, uneducated. You have to have an IQ level of, 10 to be convinced of his arguments. If you took out immigration tomorrow, send them back, he says, your economy would collapse. You need a sustainable population. Without us, People don't understand. In Western countries, they don't have replacement rate. They don't have enough children. You need immigration. Canada needs immigration. We're racing to bring people in. They pay taxes. They do the jobs nobody wants to do. We've gone up now. We're second generation. We're not doing the little jobs no more. Who's going to do them?
Yeah. But do you differentiate though between, I think what ends up happening is there's another issue. There's immigration, and then there's what it seems like migrants, which are allowed to.
No, I'm not talking about illegal. Illegal immigration is wrong, obviously. That's a problem, okay? But they extend it to people who have been working, and they're bombing mosques, they're attacking people. 100%. These people are not illegals. If they're illegals, report them, let the law handle it. There's a system, 100%. Okay? Now here's the thing.
I feel that there is societal elements of destabilization due to mismanagement from political leaders, but then it's being capitalized by people who already have an agenda. So they hate all, colored people, immigration, anything. So they lump this issue of, say, this unchecked migrants into the same pot.
Listen, people always gravitate where there's wealth. Yeah. There was once upon a time where everybody went to Baghdad 100%. To study. Everybody gravitated to Baghdad. Why? Before the Mongols invaded, everybody went to Baghdad. Why? Wealth. Now we go to Western countries. Why? Wealth. After World War II, they're the champions of World War II. They they colonized the entire world. They took everybody's wealth and resources. Well, guess what? We're coming to your place. Tomorrow, when the Arab world has more resources and more wealth, guess what? They're going to come to us.
And they are going, right? Khalij, they're going, right?
People go where there's wealth. We don't care about your culture. We have our own culture. We respect other people's culture. It's in the Quran to respect other people's culture. We're not coming here because we think your culture is superior to ours. It's not that. We're coming here for opportunity, economical opportunity. And now they're going to say, oh, everybody comes to our culture because we're the best. No, we don't care about your culture. It's not about culture. It's about money. It's about financial incentive. We want to make it in a place where our kids are not starving to death. They can get education. They can move up in the world. Tomorrow, if it shifts to China, we're going to go to China. Tomorrow, if it shifts to India, guess what? We're coming to India. When a country goes and colonizes the world and takes other countries' resources, guess what? People are going to go follow where those resources are. In the West, in America, they consume. The average American consumes 10 times more than the average citizen of the world. 10 times more. They eat, they drink, they consume more electricity. 10 times more. So where do you think we're going to go? How do you think they get such cheap prices for their goods? How do you think they do that? Honestly, they bomb the rest of the world. They bully the countries with resources, and the countries with resources bend the knee to make sure that these powerful countries get what they want at the price that they want. Okay, so look, we're not so brain dead that we just believe anything. Muslims, the number one thing you have to know is education. Some guy says migrants cause a lot of crime. Well, which migrants? Exactly who? There's nuances. Let me tell you something. Even in rape statistics, they say, oh, look, there was an influx of migrants, now rape goes up. Rape went up in Sweden, the famous case, because they redefined rape. They redefined rape. Before, what was sexual assault is now rape. So if you touch a woman inappropriately, you didn't go any further than that, that's rape. If a man touches a woman 3 times inappropriately, that's 3 cases of rape. So they redefined the way they count rape. Rape statistics actually are very nuanced because not every country defines rape as the same way. So when you look at them, you can lie with statistics. There's a famous book written, Lying with Statistics. Yeah. You need nuances. If you change the parameters of what rape is, of course there's going to be a spike. The Swedish people themselves say, look, there's not a spike, we just redefined it. So there are nuances. So you can lie with statistics, you can smear people, you can try to create division. At the end of the day, look, if somebody does something wrong, illegal, whether he's Muslim or not, he should be punished. Muslim or not, it's the system, the issue. Because you can't say that Muslims rape. We're anti-rape. You look at Muslim countries, every year they rate the safest cities in the world for women. Every year it's Medina. Yeah. The safest place in the world for women is Medina. Wow. That's the whole point of Islam, is that a woman can walk from one place to the other, she won't be harassed, and she doesn't need protection. The state protects her. The state. Yeah. Nobody even look in her direction. That's how protected she is. Okay. Yeah. Don't tell me in the West where they have the highest counts of rape, actual rape. Okay, molestation, they groom their children, etc. Look, I think there's good and bad in every culture. But there's nuances too. We have to be more nuanced. We can't just be like, hey, this whole group, they're bad. I think that's very ignorant.
Yeah. I think that's 100%. It just, because, people just look at the headlines, right? They look at the, short tweet. They look at just the quick post. And then it becomes, I think, driven, again, by the group that you're associated with, right? So there are people who associate themselves with Tommy Robinson, and he benefits handsomely.
He makes big bank. He makes big bank. He sends a tweet, all these people are bad.
Yeah.
And he makes big bank. He's washing his hands. These young kids are going to jail because they're doing his bidding.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope he goes to jail for this one because he's telling these young kids, he's inciting them to violence. He's dog whispering.
Yeah.
He's dog whispering, telling them, hey, wouldn't it be great if these people were scared for their life? Yeah. He's basically dog whistling.
Yeah.
You dog whistle, those kids commit a crime, and then you think they're going to go to jail, you're going to sit pretty. I hope they convict him. And he's going to court now in October, I believe. I hope he gets convicted. I hope he does a lot of jail time because he's capitalizing on a incident, a horrible incident, 3 girls getting stabbed. By the way, he turns out to be native and Christian.
Yeah.
He's native to the land and Christian. He's not a Muslim migrant who came in. Yeah. They spread misinformation. They riled up riots that caused millions of dollars in damage.
Yeah.
He split a community, and it really is hate mongering. And the kids are young and impressionable. They think, hey, he's the brain of the operation. He knows what we're doing. And I think it's a betrayal because these young kids put their trust in a moron like Tommy Robinson. I say it outright. I call him a moron outright.
Yeah.
He's a despicable human being. He's inciting hate. He's getting these young impressionable kids to do his bidding, to commit, he's inciting violence. And I would say that about a Muslim guy who incites violence as well. He incited violence when the person committing the crime wasn't even Muslim, has nothing to do with Islam. And I know dog whispering when I hear it. I think the court system is also gonna.
And he's hiding in Spain or whatever. He's getting his minions to like incite stuff, stir the pot.
And another sellout I want to call out is also Jordan Peterson. He signs a $1 million contract with the Daily Wire, and all of a sudden now he's defending all these characters. He completely changed tune. Let me tell you something. He's a sellout. It's despicable. And he preaches he's always preaching against feminism. Look at his daughter. Yeah. Okay. Look at your daughter. She's the epitome of feminism. The epitome. She's dressing all sexy, going out being provocative. He's saying, "Oh, maybe women shouldn't wear makeup in the workplace." You can't even convince your own daughter. Yeah. Okay, he cannot convince his own daughter. His daughter's on the internet taking pictures with shirtless guys. She's divorced. She's a single mother. He's always preaching against single motherhood. Oh, single mothers, this and that. He's talking bad about them. Your own daughter is a single mother. Yeah. Your own daughter can't keep together. Like, you're preaching to us. But
or even manhood, like masculinity or how men should be.
I love how his, I think it was the first, one of his chapters in his book, early chapter, get your own house, get your own room in order before you start giving us advice. Yeah. Guess what, man, you should read your own book because your house ain't in order. Yeah. He's talking about masculinity. I never heard
There's a clip of him, I never heard a guy
with such a wimpy voice.
Yeah.
Look, he's a psychologist. Yeah. Okay. He knows why he knows in Palestine, if you want to read a study on post-traumatic stress disorder in children. Yeah. Where are all those studies taking place? In Palestine. He's got to know that. If he's a true psychologist, I know that. I'm a philosopher and I'm not a psychologist. I know that post-traumatic stress in children is studied in Palestine. This is before October, okay? 2023. Why do they study it? Why do you think they study it in Palestine? Because those kids have been bombed and tortured from a young age. There are documentaries, don't take my word for it, there are documentaries about how they're put into prison. You don't call them hostages. You call them prisoners. Now we're in semantics. Yeah. If I take somebody by force, he's a hostage. If you take somebody by force, he's a prisoner. 99.9% conviction rate. Imagine, how could a people be convicted at 99.9%? That's impossible. Imagine if we had a system in America where a particular race was being convicted in military court. So one race, they go to military court. The other race, they go to civil court, criminal court. Why? Because of his race? Yes, because of his race. Okay. And then what's the conviction rate? 99%? Are you telling me it doesn't smell like prejudice? Now, we have documentaries of these children. Yeah. Because we have whistleblowers on the other side. They blow the whistle. I can't do these to young kids, so they come and they interview. There's a movement they call breaking the silence. Okay, there's particular groups. They're, look, we're a part of this army, we're a part of this people, and we're going to break the silence because we saw evil, and it's always a whistleblower on the other side. And they say, look, we did this to the kids. They talk about how they harassed them with dogs. They would put a hot dog on the kid's lap, you know what I'm saying, and have the dog eat it, scare him to death. And their whole process is that we're gonna make you so scared that in the future, you won't ask for your land back. Because for people who don't know, the international community, there's so many, I hate to say it, there's so many ignorant people online. The international communities, judges from around the world, every international body has said, look, These people, the Palestinians, have been displaced illegally. Their homes were taken from them illegally. They have the right to return. Look it up. It's called Resolution 194. If you leave because you fear, some people try to say, oh, they left voluntarily. Yeah, so what? If you leave your home voluntarily, you have the right to come back. If I leave my home, do you have the right to take it? Yeah. I can leave indefinitely and come back anytime I want. That's my home. That's my property. I own it. You have to buy it from me. I have to be willing to sell it to you. That's how the world works. You can't say, oh, this guy left his house. Let's take his home. Are we going to live by these laws now? Can I come and take you out of your home at that point? First of all, it's a bald-faced lie that they left voluntarily. They left because they were scared they were going to get massacred. There's Deir Yassin massacre. You have the Deir Yassin massacre. Yeah. People are scared now to get massacred. October 7th happened many times over. Before you heard October 7th, but on the other side. Every international community in the world agrees it. The UN, Amnesty International, the ICC, the ICJ, International Criminal Court. They all say that's a crime. It's a war crime. We have to enforce Resolution 194. But you have all these people on the internet debating. The debate is done. The experts have come in. Now
We're saying give them hell, right? As Peterson.
Jordan Peterson is the most dishonest, immoral, filthy dog for tweeting to Netanyahu.
As a Canadian, I agree.
Give him hell.
Yeah.
You know why? Because he knows. Yeah. He's got to know. He's either the most ignorant man in the world, or he knows that if you put somebody in a corner and you starve him and you bomb him and you take away his clean water and you torture his children, if somebody's taking your children, you send your son to school and they take him and they put him in a prison, and then you're thinking, hey, they're doing unspeakable things to my son in there. How do you sleep at night? They come in and they break down your door and they harass your wife and they tell you, they try to bully you to leave. They want you to leave this area because they want to take your home. How would you react? Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. Jordan Peterson knows that if you starve somebody, because he's a psychologist, he knows. If you starve somebody, if you torture somebody, if you give them no reason to live, they're going to be your worst enemy. We know what makes people sadistic. We know. Yeah. Violence at a young age makes people crazy. Now, I'll tell you something. I will tell you, I condemn any time an innocent civilian is killed. It's explicit in the Quran. It's explicit. It's explicit in international law. We all agree. Even an atheist is going to agree with me. It's wrong. We all agree. However, when one side does it, we give excuses. When the other side does it, we call them the T word. Yeah. Let me tell you something. The T word,
not only that,
T word is equivalent to the N word.
Yeah.
In the future, they're going to be like, oh yeah, because if you're a particular race, we call you the T word, and you're not a particular race, we use a different semantics. Yeah. Is the world too stupid to tell the difference? You gotta understand, I'm super frustrated. Yeah. This game of semantics. Is the world really that stupid? You call one guy who does the crime the T word, and then you call the other guy who commits the same exact crime. You call him something else. You call him he's just defending himself. He's just defending himself.
Or they turn him into like a TV star. I don't know if you saw, that one IDF soldier who raped.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And they have it's on video. He is now a TV star.
Yeah.
Like a reality TV star.
Ben Gvir, another sadistic, filthy animal, that in the future, anybody who associates with Ben Gvir is going to be humiliated. Humiliated. Hitler has descendants. They hide in New Jersey. We know for a fact he has descendants. They live under a new name. They don't tell anybody who they are. They're completely humiliated from their family tree. The same thing is going to happen with all people who are associated with this madman. This guy, there was a 12-year-old who got shot by an Israeli sniper for no reason. He was 200 yards away, shot this young kid who was just celebrating a Palestinian holiday or whatever it was. He was playing with a little firework, it's caught on tape. There was no reason to shoot this young child. He shoots him through the heart. The international community is like, hey, that's a war crime. Ben Gvir says, I'm going to give that guy a medal. You see a young child, I see a terrorist. He's a psychopath. He was convicted of terrorism, first of all. He praises Goldstein, the man who did the massacre in Al-Aqsa Mosque, who shot literally, Muslims were praying and he was shooting them with a machine gun, killed, I think it was 30 plus people. A complete psychopath. He's the Minister of Defense. He's in charge to make policy. He's influencing policy. The man is he's literally a convicted terrorist. Literally. It's an insane state. It's a groupthink. They've broken every international law you can imagine. They're bombing and killing children. Now, I will tell you this. Can't we all agree not to kill their children? I mean, I could agree to that very easily. Do you need convincing? There are people that need convincing that we shouldn't kill the children. I understand everybody has their point of view, but can we all come to one common agreement and not kill the children? There was a proposal that Israel take the children from Palestine that need medical help, amputation, because they're saying, oh, we're scared to give you medicine and whatnot because you're going to give it, Hamas is going to take control. Okay, let's take the children out. You're going to want to do your bombing campaigns, you want to come and control this territory. Take the children out, give them a safe space. You know, because you know that kids are not terrorists, you know that kids are not dangerous. You take the women and kids, you know they're not fighting age. No, take them, give them safe harbor. They refused, Israel refused. And they have the money and assets, the West has the assets. Listen to me, let me tell you something. I don't know if we're going to get flagged, but I'll tell you something. Their mission is eradication. Yeah. Why? Because our numbers are growing. Our numbers are growing. And they have a policy, a state policy, that the numbers should never dip under 75%, 74%, I believe. Our numbers are growing faster than them. Why? Because they're adopting Western ideologies. They want to dance on TikTok. They want to have casual sex. That's the truth of the matter. They want to smoke drugs. They want to party. They want to find their happiness. Okay, find your happiness, but guess what? Gambling, drugs, TikTok, all that destroys your family. Yeah. Try to have a family unit. Try to have a wife and 2 kids. Try to do it the old-fashioned way, but add all this haram stuff in your life. Guess what? You're probably going to disband. Statistically, you're more likely to get divorced. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, who's having children? Israel is the only state in all of Europe, all of the Middle East and Europe combined. Excuse me, not Middle East. Middle East have replacement numbers, but if you add Israel to the European states, it's the only westernized type country that has replacement numbers. But it's the ultra-religious that are doing it. Now the ultra-religious, they don't think like Netanyahu. So they're stuck between this rock and a hard place. The culture they're trying to propagate is dwindling, and then you have these 2 competing cultures. One, the Palestinians, and 2, the ultra-Orthodox, which don't want to fight for their country. A lot of them want to wait for the Messiah to come before they establish an Israeli state. They have other ideologies that fly in the face of the current government. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It always seems to come down to the nuclear family. If we cannot have a culture that helps nurture the nuclear family, we ultimately don't have happiness. We don't self-transcend. We don't see that there's anything good in this life, because after that, it's just temporary pleasures. So it comes, why do they call it the nuclear family? The nuclear family is the nucleus of the village. The village is the nucleus of the city. The city is the nucleus of the state. The state is the nucleus of the country. When you destroy the nuclear family, you have these impossible dilemmas you have to deal with. And now you have to be like, hey, they're growing in number. We got to eradicate them. We got to push them out. Their numbers are greater than ours. If you're in a democracy and the other is greater in number than you, guess what? It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time before the people with greater populations are not governing the country. And they're not doing it by force. That's democratic principles. If tomorrow we have an influx of Chinese and we're in a democratic state, one vote, one person, one vote, by democratic principles, the Chinese will take over. The Chinese will be in parliament. The Chinese will be in charge. But if you believe in democracy, that shouldn't be a problem. If you believe in democracy, are you telling us that democracy maybe has a fatal flaw? They're trying to shape the world, not by democracy, by disguising themselves as a democracy. And the government chooses the people.
It seems like that they almost benefited from, like, it fulfilled their agenda of eradication. And that might tie into, some of the comments people have that it's highly suspicious how October 7th was even allowed to happen. Like, this is a highly regulated prison, and for them to be able to break through and for the army not to respond, it's not like we're covering huge land distances here, but for the army not to respond for like 6+ hours, this is highly suspicious.
There's so many questions. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of independent evidence. But a lot of evidence that was presented was faulty, which brought the whole enterprise into question. Yeah. Look, when I heard the 40 babies, I went on my podcast and I was condemning it wholeheartedly. That's un-Islamic, against international policy. It's a war crime. I don't care who does it. Look, if a Muslim commits a war crime, or a Jewish person commits a war crime, or an atheist commits a war crime, I condemn that war crime. Okay, we have to be fair. When I heard that, I believed it. You know why I believed it? Because it was on the lips of the president. I'm like, he wouldn't say something that, I was naive at the time. Let me tell you something. I would never accept any group to do that.
Yeah.
I don't care what your politics are. It's inhumane. We cannot go so far as to harm children. I find that despicable. There's no excuse. There's no interpretation that I'll accept. It's just animalistic.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. I'm not saying there wasn't deaths, but that particular case didn't happen, which now brings in question anything anybody ever says.
Yeah.
Now we think everything is a lie.
The
We have to
whole
assume that it
narrative
could
has
be a lie.
the whole narrative has greatly been changed now, and much of it has been debunked. And there's a lot of
Right.
independent journalists. I think like Max Blumenthal. Like there's a whole.
There's a lot of misinformation, but I'll tell you something. I acknowledge there were atrocities.
Yeah.
I would acknowledge that the Sunnah was not upheld on that day.
Yeah.
Because independent journalists reported what they saw. So they were shown videos. I believe there was atrocities. Now I'll tell you something. I'm not gonna make excuses for those atrocities. They shouldn't be done. I'm just gonna tell you one thing. If you corner somebody for too long and you torture them for too long and they're too desperate, why don't I do desperate things like that? I'll tell you why. Because I have a job, I have a career, I have a family, I have something to live for. I have positives in my life. When you take away somebody's ability to travel, to eat, to drink, you limit their prospects of having a job. Over 50% of the population is unemployed, and they have to work for the other and menial jobs. So it's basically slavery. Oh, if you're gonna relegate me to slavery, well, guess what? Eventually, something happens in a human being, and it's not in Arabs or blacks or whites or Portuguese, it's in every human being.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. Nat Turner, a famous slave. I told the Nat Turner story on my podcast once, and then months later I heard Norm Finkelstein tell the same story. And you know what? Because a lot of people said, oh, it's not a proper parallel. It is a proper parallel. Nat Turner did something very vicious. He was reading the Bible and he realized, hey, these majorities always exploit these minorities. And one day these minorities are going to fight back. For instance, Moses, Jesus alayhi salam, etc. They were minorities and they fight back. He's like, I gotta fight back. I gotta put together a group and fight back. So he did fight back. When he fought back, he did something really haram. He killed not only his male master, so to speak, the wife and the child. And then he was captured a few months later, he was hung. And then there was a big debate. What do we do with the black community living in the white community? These black slaves, what do we do with them? There was two positions. One, we gotta get more strict on them. And two, no, we gotta emancipate them. We gotta slowly give them rights, give them something, a better life. Make them part of our community, let them pay taxes. Now, the group that wanted to subjugate them further wins. They wanted to take away their ability to read. No more reading, because they said, hey, he read the Bible. Teaching blacks to read now was forbidden. Black people drinking alcohol was forbidden. Black people carrying guns, even if they're hunting for their master, no guns. They could not congregate. Before, they would have times where they can congregate and have their leisure time. No more of that. They made life even more unbearable. What happened? Civil War, one of the most bloodiest wars in history. Eventually, I'm not saying the Civil War is because of this, but eventually down the line, it led to an immense amount of violence and then emancipation. And now today, we find it ridiculous to say that we should take away a black person's right to read.
Yeah.
We're embarrassed of those people who said those things. Well, what's the solution for the Palestinian and the Israeli? Emancipation. Give them a proper life, give them the right to vote, to have full human rights, and they won't want to fight you.
Yeah.
Why would I fight somebody? Look, I live in the West. I'm a dhimmi of the West. I pay taxes to them. I'm a protected person. If I call 911, they come and they rescue me. If I want medical attention, they give it to me. Why would I fight them? I have no purpose in fighting them. I pay the tax and they take care of me. Okay, do I live in an Islamic state? No, but I'm allowed to practice my religion. Islam gave the same benefits to the Jewish person, and the Jewish people should give the same benefits to the Muslims, the Arabs. I'll tell you. Let me tell you something. I like to ask this question. After the Jews were exiled from Rome, not from Rome, excuse me, from Jerusalem.
Oh, okay, Jerusalem. Yeah.
When the Jews were exiled from Jerusalem by the Romans, they were exiled for over 500 years. My question is, who brought them back? Who brought them back? Omar bin Khattab, he brought them back. When he conquered Jerusalem, without violence, by the way, they forfeited Jerusalem to him willingly. He came in and he said to them, where is the Jewish community? There's no Jewish community. The Christians had expelled them. He allowed 70 families to come back. The reason he didn't allow more is because the Christians bargained him down to 70. He asked where the temple was. When they showed him where the temple was, the Christians had turned it into a dump site. He literally, with his own hands, started cleaning up the garbage. This is bedrock history, by the way. Even the non-Muslim scholars admit to this. He brought the Jews back. If tomorrow we conquer all of Jerusalem, we're going to bring the Jewish people back. If somebody expels them tomorrow, we're going to bring them back. Are you going to overrule what Umar bin Khattab did? Never. He did it, we all do it.
And no scholar, by the way, no scholar would say it would be halal, it would be permissible for us to do the same thing that they're subjecting.
No, we would never do this. Historically, we didn't do it.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, the brutality that they're exacting on the Palestinian people, I don't think there's any scholar who said that if we were in power, we would do the same thing.
When you find massacres in Islamic expansion, when you find forced conversions, those are the exceptions, not the rule. Especially in the early expansion, okay? Even non-Muslim scholars, they agree to this. Early expansion, it was very quick, very fast, very successful, because people wanted to live under Muslim rule, because you could practice your religion. Look, who rescued the Jewish people from the Spanish Inquisition? The Catholics were literally massacring all Jewish people. Where did the Jews survive? In Arab worlds. The Ottoman Empire rescued the Jews. We have them writing in Arabic. They use their alphabet, but wrote in Arabic. The Golden Age, you know, David Wasserstein, a Jewish study professor, he says, look, Islam saved Jewry. Without Islam, Jewry would not exist, because the Christians would have eradicated all the Jews. Why? Because when Islam conquered Rome, conquered Persia, they united the two empires, the Jews from Persia and from Rome can now connect. They had a golden age. They had a revival. They would have dwindled because the empires were Christian. It would have, for a long time, people might not know this, but for a long time, the Christians were trying to annihilate every Jew on earth. The Holocaust, the pogroms, anti-Semitism is a European Christian invention. It didn't rise out of Islam. And Islam, you know, I love it because there's an amazing clip of, what's his name? Unholy Shmoli, the rabbi.
Yeah.
He's saying, he admits to it, there was never a Holocaust in the Muslim world. They never massacred us.
Yeah. There's no
Any case of massacre was an exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
And I'll openly tell you, it's haram to massacre. If you kill somebody just because he's Jewish, that's haram, that's forbidden. Yeah. He would have to commit a capital crime, and that's true of a Muslim, a non-Muslim, a Jew, a Christian, an atheist. It's true of anybody.
Yeah.
So you'd have to commit a capital crime. And it's incredible that people don't know this basic history. The Muslims famously protected Jews in World War II, during the pogroms, during the massacres of the Inquisition, during the Crusades. Where did they run and hide? Why did the Jews speak Arabic? Why did Maimonides, the second Moses, write all his works in Arabic? Why? He was literally protected by the Arab country. But now, they flipped. There's a flippening. Now they're siding with the Christian world.
Yeah.
And this is very new. This is flying in the face of history, okay? And I think in the future, there's gonna be another flippening of one side or the other, you know, because I think...
But I think what you're saying is correct in the sense that people cannot endure this oppression forever. It reaches a point, and if we look at throughout history, you know, you mentioned a lot of historical facts, like, tell me any revolution that wasn't bloody. Tell me any society that didn't go through that, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the British, like any society that had to go through this period of revolution, it reached to a point of oppression where they couldn't take it, and then just...
Right, but we can never make excuses for killing innocent civilians. It's against the Sunnah.
No, that's 100%.
But today people debate about it. Today it's a hot topic. Oh, we're bombing those... half the casualties are children, but war is hell. It's a slogan. Yeah. War is hell. What do you mean war is hell? Yeah. That's a war crime, my friend. That's a war crime. Let me just tell you a very interesting fact, okay? They're detonating 2,000-pound bombs.
Yeah.
The biggest bombs detonated in Iraq were 500-pound bombs. Yeah. We're talking about a more densely populated area with half the population being children. They want to eradicate every child. That's what people have to wake up to. They say one thing, and actually no, the rhetoric is annihilation. I mean, Netanyahu literally called the Palestinians Amalek. Now, if you try to say to me, well, he's referring to Hamas, no, he's not, because if you read the Torah, and I've read the entire Torah, Amalek is to be annihilated, both the children of Amalek, even the sheep, the ox, their livestock is to be annihilated. Yes, the children are supposed to be annihilated. So when you use the term Amalek, if you refer to somebody as Amalek, that means you have to completely annihilate them. Now listen, if you understand Judaism, we are not Amalek. People who believe in one God cannot be Amalek. Amalek is the heathen, the polytheists. We are not polytheists. We trace our tree back to Abraham, like them, alayhi salam, okay? We are literally cousins / brothers, half brothers. We don't apply, Amalek doesn't apply to monotheists. It flies in the face of, it's anti-Jewish. Look, I believe Judaism is about morality. I don't believe Judaism is about eradicate the other. I think there were perversions. The Talmud is a perversion because the rabbis with their worldly views of the world, they have their own interpretation. I don't know if you're familiar with the Talmud. The Talmud can be extremely bloody and violent.
100%.
And I find, okay, I don't believe that's divine. I don't believe that's from Allah. My infidel tells me, no, that was changed. That can't be right. God doesn't want me to annihilate children. God doesn't want me to annihilate everybody and kill everybody and massacre. God doesn't want me to do a Holocaust. God doesn't want me to go in there and kill just blindly, just destroy everybody. I think that if you think that, I don't want to be part of your religion. What kind of religion is that? What kind of religion says, hey, we got to annihilate everybody? What kind of religion is that?
Look at the opening of Mecca.
Morality.
Right? Look at the opening of Mecca. So the Prophet ﷺ, he's the example of this religion.
Exactly.
And his companions were brutalized, they were tortured, killed. They fought them in battles. His life was threatened. Fatah Mecca is an opening.
Yeah. For people who don't know, when the Prophet conquered Mecca, he didn't kill anybody. When they did the treaty of Hudaybiyah, he was like, look, if Muslims want to leave Islam and they want to go back to being pagan, no death penalty, no nothing. He's the walking Quran. He lived the Quran. He made a deal with pagans. We can even live along with pagans. He made a peace treaty with the pagans. Now, the peace treaty was broken. We had back conflict again, and it proceeded to further measures. Yeah. But we have to also remember the pagans is not a monotheist. The pagan, they would bury their own daughters. This is something we cannot coexist with. They would literally bury their own daughters, okay? They live by a might is right type philosophy, which there are certain things we couldn't live with them. But the attempt to live with them was repeated. And it worked for a while. People don't know this, but there was a time where Muslims were sharing Mecca with the pagans. There was peace treaties with the pagans, but when it comes to paganism and monotheism, these are two separate subjects. That's why I don't think it makes any sense for anybody to call monotheists Amalek. Yes. That's a very, very distorted view of what the Torah is trying to say.
There's a deliberate campaign to dehumanize. I think, and we've experienced that here in Canada, right? With here, Quebec, the mosque shooting, in London, Ontario, where that family was mowed down with the van. When you dehumanize a person, like they have now like a person in their mind, it's like you're trying to subvert that consciousness, that feeling of pain where you have when you brutalize somebody, because it's not natural. It's not something you can go to sleep with at night or look in the mirror with.
People have it's incredible how little people can distinguish sometimes. Like people say, oh, well, look, they did October 7th, they deserve to be bombed. That's called collective punishment. That's actually a war crime. Like people don't think much too deeply about these things. You're killing people that had nothing to do with October 7th. You're killing people who weren't born when Hamas was elected. You're killing people that have literally no crime on their hands. They were born in a prison. They were born amidst this conflict. And I think, look, if any side killed a civilian, he should be brought to justice. I think we have to dismantle our ultra right-wing governments on both sides. Because I'll tell you something, Hamas was put into power by Israel. People don't know that. Who funded Hamas? Before Hamas, we had a more moderate group, the PLO. They wanted to make peace. They wanted to coexist. Hamas, Netanyahu brags, is an asset. He's online bragging about it before October 7th. He's like, these guys are so extremist that we can never make a deal because the world is trying to force a peace deal. The world is trying to force a coexistence, not an eradication of the other. So put somebody on the other side that's equally as hard-headed as you, and we'll never have a deal. He's bragging about Hamas. I think Muslims have to get smart. They have to get more, and I sympathize in a way with both sides, but that doesn't mean I agree with both sides. I understand that, look, people are running away from World War II and they want a place to live. They want to hide from Europe, who almost eradicated them. I can understand that. But the way I came to this country was not by kicking somebody else out. Because me too, my parents ran away from war, the Lebanese Civil War. We came here, we worked, we rented a home, then we bought a home, and we helped raise the value of a country. We didn't come here and take anything from anybody. That's the problem. It's not that we don't welcome our Jewish brothers. It's that don't take, don't steal, don't thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal. You know, I had a debate one time with a Jewish person. He's like, well, that's our land, it's promised to us, we're going to take. I told him, look, the Torah is based on the 10 commandments, and none of the commandments are take your land whenever it's taken. That's secondary. Yeah. And we agree. Look, the Prophet ﷺ, Moses, was commanded in the Quran, take the Jews into the promised land. Why do you think Umar bin Khattab brought them back? Why do you think he brought them back? Because it's in our books as well. Yes, we want to bring them back, but not to take our homes, our food, our shelter, and make us miserable. No,
well, I don't know if you saw those pictures of those ships where they literally were holding banners, you know, don't turn us away. Mm-hmm. And many Palestinians, even in their own home, they accepted them.
Of course. But Zionism, which is a different topic, inherently is to expel the Palestinians. I can't believe people even debate this. It's inherent in their speech, their rhetoric, their promises, that we're going to remove the Arab. Now, that's the problem we have. Yeah, come and coexist with us. Look, when people immigrate to our country, it raises property value. It's not bad. More people want to live here. We settled here, so our property value goes up. We're not dumb. We understand the economy. It's good for us. However, don't take me out of my home. That's my children's inheritance. That's where we're telling them, don't forget, it's thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not kill. People need to immigrate peacefully, not come and take. That's when we have eternal conflicts, and it's not good for people. Look, you know, they asked Einstein to be the first prime minister of Israel. He refused. He wrote a letter. He wrote an open letter, and he explained, look, this is always going to be a point of conflict if you go about it this way. Yeah. I think we could all admit Einstein is a very intelligent guy. What's the end goal? Look, the end goal, I think the West is using Israel as a puppet to create chaos in the Arab world. And the Israelis, the generation, maybe not this generation, but the next generation, they're going to suffer for it. Why? Because the world is becoming increasingly intolerant about division. The youth today, the generation Z, the generation Alpha, they're not going to stand for ethno-states. When you poll them, they hate ethno-state. They despise this type of ideology. Yes, you have an ultra-right-wing government. Once upon a time, Germany was ultra-right-wing. What are they now? Now they're the most diverse country in the world. Yeah. They're so accepting of other cultures. How come they flipped? Because the generation were disgusted of their older generation. They did a 180 on them. What do you think is going to happen in Israel? You think this ultra-right-wing government is going to survive forever? Look at the polls. Look at the younger kids, how they're polling. They sympathize with the other side. So in the future, those are going to be your politicians. Those are going to be your new faces that are in control. What do you think they're going to do? They're not going to live in the 1950s anymore, where you have one ethnicity surviving over another. It's considered an embarrassment to the world. When America finally got rid of slavery, Europe was making fun of them. It took you that long? People forget their history. You still have slaves? That's like, it's a humiliation. You're still thinking like we were thinking 100 years ago? It's an embarrassment to the world. To divide people by their race. Yeah. It's going to be a humiliation.
I want to switch gears into a topic that I want to give some hope for this generation, especially Muslim community, and maybe we could take some advice. But first, I want to just talk about a few statistics and kind of go through some solutions here. Especially boys and men. We're gonna focus on boys and men, inshallah. So some of these statistics show that worldwide, 60% of the students who achieve less than the baseline of proficiency in any of the 3 core subjects are boys. Okay.
So say that again.
So 60% of the students who achieve less than the baseline proficiency in the 3 core subjects are boys.
Right. Okay. So boys are falling behind in education.
71% say they don't like school, 3 times more are expelled from school. Boys who score just as well in reading and math and science tests are graded less favorably than girls by teachers, unless the behave like girls. Boys' IQ has dropped 15 points since the 1980s. So since basically our generation, the ones today, 15 points less. Why is that? Is the education system failing boys, and why is it failing them?
Look, IQ is traced back to vocabulary. Yeah. If you have a home with a rich vocabulary, you're more likely to have a higher IQ. Yeah. If you're raised in a single mother's household, you're hearing one set of vocabulary. When you have a father and a mother talking to you at a young age, you have two sets of vocabularies. Your father uses certain words, your mother uses certain words. You're making different connections. There's incredible amount of data now on what happens to fatherless children. Look at the poorest community, go by race. The poorest community in America, 52% of them, a particular race, I won't say which one, don't know who their father is. The second poorest community, I think they're like 46% don't know who their father is. Most of wealth is made via inheritance. How are you going to inherit? How are you going to inherit anything if you don't know who your father is? My father has a business. When he dies, I inherit it. I have a business. When I die, my children inherit it. It's a snowball. How did the Trump family get so rich? Well, go look at his father. Go look at his father's father. And his father's father, they got in the hotel business a long time ago. People get rich via inheritance. Well, if my existence is a drunken night, and my father doesn't know, I don't know who he is, and my mom has slept with 7 other guys that month, she doesn't even know who he is, how am I supposed to collect inheritance? Well, I'm probably going to fall into poverty, which is the poorest children or single mothers. Did you know that children who are born without a father have more chance of suicide, drug abuse, criminal activity? I can't remember the exact statistic, but I believe like 70% of men in prison have no father. There's a reason why we get married. When I marry a woman, I'm telling her, look, if she has a baby, I'm responsible for that baby. I'm telling you the world. You know, in Islam, you have to get married publicly. You have to have witnesses. That girl's gonna say, I'm pregnant. I have witnesses, that guy. He's denying he's my husband. Look, I have witnesses. When a child has a father, I bear responsibility. In Canada alone, we spend billions on single motherhood. Woman is single. Oh, I made it on my own. Maybe you didn't make it on your own. You have subsidies. The government subsidizes you. They take money from us and they give them to you. Why? Because you can't tell us who the father is. You can't tell us who the father is. Or maybe the father doesn't make enough money and he's out there somewhere, he disappeared. Single motherhood is a very difficult thing for society to overcome. Why? One, the child gets less. Imagine not knowing who your father is. You know, the Arabs, we know who our father is, but try to put yourself in the shoes of a man who doesn't know who his father is. You know, like, my name is Firas ibn Asmat. I know who my father, my name is from my father. And I know my father's name. Our nicknames is, whose son are you? Whose father are you? I'm Abu Noah. I'm Abu Noah. My son's name is Noah. People know me by who my son is. We have the opposite culture. I know who your father, not only you know who your father is, I know who your father is. And everybody knows who your father is. Your identity is who your father is.
Yeah.
If you grew up without a father, you're more likely to do like your father did. That's your roadmap for life. Why? Because in psychology, they tell us that we're likely to repeat what we lived. And they call it your love map. When you're young, you see how your parents' relationship was, and to you, that's what a relationship is. You're married for a while, you get divorced. That's the lay it out map that I got. That's the road that I have. Oh, I don't even know who my father is. Oh, that means women are just, use him, abuse him, and disappear. So he's more likely to do the same thing, and you're perpetuating a culture of poverty, ignorance. I hate to say it, ignorance. Children with a low, because you're telling me their IQs are lower. Guess what? We come from a wave of divorce. Go back to the 1970s. You had a mother and a father and 2-3 children. Now you're telling me we broke the nuclear family. It always comes back to the nuclear family. Every time. Now, it's in the West, it's cool to be a single mother. Because you're empowered. You're doing it on your own. You ain't doing it on your own. Take away the government subsidies. What's going to happen then? A lot of these women doing it on their own, quote unquote, they're not doing it on your own. At the end of the day, you need a man's resources as well. Now, I understand women are going more into the education. I get it. But when a woman has a career, there's good and bad. The bad thing is she has less time for her family. So you have less kids, and your kids are raised by the nanny. They're raised by the government, by the kindergarten. So they grow up very different than you. You're also not passing down your culture because the government has a culture itself, and they have your kids 8 hours a day. Guess what they're teaching them? They're teaching them about the alphabet, and the alphabet with all mixed up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There are many ways you can arrange the alphabet, not just A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
And they're telling them about this or that. You lose touch with your kid. Your kid sees you as somebody that I know, but not the person who fed me, not the person who changed me. There's a quantity time you have to spend with your kids. Now, when you have a dynamic where both parents are working, you need the state now. The state gets involved in your family. There's a reason why men now have lower IQs, and it has a lot to do with feminism, single motherhood. And there's a reason why women's IQs went up, because now women are being more empowered, and there's good and bad. Because in my opinion, look, my wife, she's a very educated woman, and I appreciate that, and I foster that, believe me. I paid her for her education. I wanted her to be educated. Yet, before she finished her schooling, she did have 3 children, and she took care of my kids. That's why I tell my kids, I spoil my wife. I treat her super well. Why? Because she gave me everything that I could ask for. 3 kids, and she also did the education part. Now, she put it on hold, and I see that as a benefit to the whole family. By her putting it on hold, we all benefited. My kids had their mother after school. Now, for me, I feel like I owe her, so I reciprocate. I think also men have to remember that if you're going to ask a woman to make a sacrifice, she has to benefit from that sacrifice. I think feminism is a byproduct of men treating women badly. So I don't blame feminism, I don't blame women. I think men are responsible for this degradation.
Do you think the education system itself, though, doesn't, because the nature of boys is different, and if you look at so many of the studies, if a boy behaves more like a female, the teacher will look more favorably, grade them more favorably. And there's many brothers I speak to, they feel like, coming up through the education system, it's almost like you feel guilty for being a man. Do you think that plays?
I think if a man acts like a woman, I think it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you something.
It seems like there's some social conditioning.
Listen. There's pop culture, and then there's reality.
Yeah.
What are women attracted to? A man who acts like who's feminine, or a man who's masculine?
Yeah.
Well, I flipped the question. I ask young men, what are you more attracted to, a feminine woman or a masculine woman? They're all going to say feminine. So what do you think she's attracted to? Yeah. I always say this is the death blow argument. I always tell people, look at women's romance novels. That's where they spend their money. Which one's the best-selling novel? It's always a masculine guy. It's always a guy who's a hero. He's hard to tame, but his love for her, she ends up taming him slightly. He's a bit of a rebel, etc. It's never some guy with feminine mannerisms who wears a dress, who puts on lipstick, who cries on her shoulder, and she rescues him. It's never the case. It's never that the case. And there are reasons for that. We have deep psychological instincts, and a man has to be a provider. A man has to be strong. Look, when the war broke out in Ukraine, and the women were asked to leave the country, where are the feminists? How come that's not a double standard? How come that's not sexist? Every feminist around the world was silent. Why?
Yeah.
Well, there's violence now. There's blood on the table. There's the bad side, So.
And where are they now for Gaza, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Why are they not saying? Well, the woman couldn't leave in Gaza.
Yeah.
But you had a mass migration of women allowed to leave. If in Ukraine, if you're a man and you try to leave, you could do jail time. You're not allowed to leave. You're part of you're drafted. Where's the double standard now? No, they don't. Nobody argues against that. Well, that tells me there's a reality out there that even the most hardcore feminists will abide by. If there's danger, the man is more capable. Why? Because he's physically stronger, more aggressive, less liable to get captured, less injuries. These are all statistics, by the way. It's not a sexist thing. No. There's a reason why the female soldiers, they've tried it. They've tried to use female soldiers. Statistically, they get injured more.
Yeah.
And what happens if they get captured? We all know what happens. It's not a pretty sight.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a pretty thing. Even the men, when they get captured, but they don't get impregnated.
Yeah.
They'll suffer that consequence. But they won't come back with Russian children or children of the enemy, etc.
Or when they use women as Secret Service agents, we all see what happens there.
Right.
I don't know if you saw with Trump that when he was being shot, all the woman is like ducking instead of.
Listen. Men are predisposed for violent behavior, and we're replaceable.
Yeah.
If 2 countries go to war, okay.
Yeah.
And I lose 50% of the men. I can still repopulate. I have 100% of the women, I can still repopulate. You lose 50% of the men, you lose 50% of the women. If this is an intergenerational war, guess what? You're gonna lose. Yeah. There's a reason why we do things the way we do. Tradition is not stupid. Yeah. There's a reason. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Confucianism, these are the champions of history. That's why they're still here. Yeah. Because they had mechanisms in place to ensure their survival. We are not dumb. There's a reason why man is the protector of women. Let me tell you something. When I'm in bed with my wife and we hear a strange noise in the house, it's me that gets up.
Yeah.
Feminism doesn't jump out of the bed. Yeah. Feminism is not, hey, it's my turn to check. No. She's scared. And you know what? Of course, she's a woman. She should be scared, because if that's a man out there trying to get in. Look, here's the thing. 99.9% of sexual crimes is perpetuated by man. The vast majority of physical violence is perpetrated by man. The danger is man. Man is far more dangerous than a woman. When I walk down the street, I don't fear a group of women. If I see a group of men, believe me, I'm changing direction. If it's the middle of the night, I don't want to be outnumbered by a bunch of men. There's a reason why we protect women, because the enemy is man and the protector is man too.
Yeah.
How many times is sexual violence perpetrated by women? That's less than 1% of the cases. All sexual violence is man on woman or man on man. You know, statistically, men get raped more than women. People don't know this, but in prisons, statistically, men get raped more. So the danger is men. Now, who are you going to protect? If I assault my wife, for instance, she's got to call 911. They got to bring a man to save her from me. You understand? Here's, at the end of the day, it comes down to do we have a man between us and our abusers? We need men. Now,
and I think that's what we need to try to build. But it seems like men are even mentally becoming really weak. If you look at some of the mental health statistics, suicide rates are much higher in men than in women. Actually, suicide, by the way, takes more lives of men than war, murder, natural disasters combined. Okay, so it's like 36 million die of suicide, like men killing themselves per year. And if you look at, obviously men die sooner than women. There's a statistics, interesting, 3/4 of women said they would not date an unemployed man, but also an unemployed man is 2 times more likely to commit suicide. Right. So mentally, there is a big issue here with men. So why has that mental health deteriorated so much, and how can we combat this?
Well, look, here's the thing. When you're Muslim, the first thing you're taught is that you believe in one God and there's an afterlife. So everything you see in this world, don't worry, it's all going to be fixed. But imagine you don't have that. Well, you can fall into nihilism, because somebody who kills himself suffers from nihilism. What's the point? I'm just suffering. My life is suffering.
Yeah.
I have no duties. I have no contribution to the world. Imagine you were born unattractive, you can't find a mate. Because now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but dating apps have destroyed men's love lives. Dating apps was the worst thing that happened to men. Why? Because 20% of men are getting 80% of the women. Yeah. And you don't have to marry them. Yeah. She's the girl on Tuesday, then I have another girl on Friday, because she's a feminist. She's like, hey, I'll just take my turn.
Yeah.
So a small majority of men, a small amount of men, excuse me, I should say, are dating the majority of the women. Yeah. So what happens to these men who can't find a counterpart? Well, life is not really fun. It's not really worth living. I have all this biology and I can't, it's now your body is a prison. It's like seeing all sorts of food everywhere, but you can't eat. Again, that's why it all comes back to the nuclear family. Every time you destroy the nuclear family. Are dating apps good or bad for the nuclear family? They're bad for the nuclear family.
You know, I'll give you an example. I was getting this massage therapist. He was working on me, and then so he's talking to me. Oh, when did you get married? And it's like, how did you get married? It's like, I just went and proposed to the father. Like, I knew about her. I went to the father. It was very simple. Done. He's like, you didn't date at all? I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm like, I didn't date at all, man. Like, And he's like, you know what, man? It's like my life is like hell, because I'm on these dating apps and I invest all this time with this girl, and then she'll ghost me. She'll disappear. And it's like, because she's talking to like 10 other guys at the same time. You know what I mean?
Think about how powerful the woman is. Yeah. Oh, you got into a fight with your girl? She's got 5 other guys messaging her.
Yeah.
Why? Because she's sexually liberated. She could sleep with as many guys as she wants, and that's fine. Okay, well, the guy in his head is like, look, I'm just gonna take my turn. I'm not gonna marry her. Yeah. So everybody's backstabbing everybody. Yeah. The girl is playing the guy because she's got many men who want to sleep with her, and the guy's saying, hey, I'm just gonna take my turn. I'm gonna shuffle her around like everybody else. There's no actual genuine commitment.
Yeah.
Dating apps, liberalism, sexual revolution. These are all things that. Too much of it kills the nuclear family. And when you kill the nuclear family, guess what you have? You have what's the point of life? Like, let me tell you something. When you have a kid that depends on you, you think, hey, how am I going to take care of my kid? You don't start thinking about my personal needs. You take a back seat to the love of your child. For people who never had a kid, they don't understand this. And I can understand because I was single once upon a time and I didn't have kids. But once you have a child that depends on you and you love that child, you start thinking differently. You're thinking like, I don't want harm to come to this child. I want this child to grow up and do what I did. I want them to have that experience. So you start thinking at a higher level than just yourself. But when you're by yourself with no reason to live, no faith, no ability to fulfill your needs, the body becomes a prison. You have all these needs, because don't forget, your needs are painful unless they're gratified. Once they're gratified, you have a temporary relief, and that's a pleasure. 100%. But hunger, sexual desire, companionship, desire for companionship, these are all things that are painful if they're not fulfilled.
Yeah, and I think, societally, do we see an effect? Because I'll give you, this is an example I bring up with people, because I find it amazing given like the yearly gripe that we have when we look at our infrastructure in each of our cities. 140 years ago, they built the railway across Canada, right? And can you imagine this? So this is a railway with so they're putting down infrastructure. So they're cutting through mountains, they're making new pathways, everything. 4.5 years it took them to build that. They did it 5 years ahead of schedule. So ahead of schedule, okay? This is like 20,000 kilometers long. And you hear the stories, like those men they sacrificed, and there's also they had some Chinese labor and stuff like that, especially on the BC side. But these men, they sacrificed themselves. Like I remember going to a mine where they talked about the railway and the guys who'd work the mines. They would literally just stop the track, these carts that would carry the all these materials. They would literally have to stick a peg in between.
Stop it.
To stop it, and sometimes they would lose their hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like these men, 4.5 years, built a railway across this huge country. I'm like, I came to Montreal 80 years ago, man. I'm like, I still see the same potholes, the same construction thing. I'm like, there's no change, right? This is not the only city, right? I'm not gonna just knock Montreal, but the same city. Is the fact that we've lost masculinity and men, is there a societal as well, a debt that's being paid because we've lost?
I think so. I mean, you have look, they're trying to put women in every position that man's in, and there's good and there's bad in this endeavor. Like, for instance, let's say I'm trapped in a burning building, and the fireman kicks down the door, and it's a woman. She's 5'6", 120 pounds. How's she gonna put me on her shoulder and go down those stairs? Well, they decided we need a certain amount of women that are firemen, and they're gonna do the exact same job because they're equal to men, and she's gonna climb up those stairs just like a 250-pound man would do. Do I die? Because of affirmative action, because of their philosophies, their ideologies? There is a physical capacity. Now, I know that firemen are smarter than that. If there's a burning building, they're gonna send the big guy to go up there maybe. But there are those who swallow the philosophy so whole. I'll give you a great for instance. There was open debate in the US. These politicians gathered and they were talking about women in sports and transgenders in women's sports. And they asked one of these politicians, he said that, so you're saying that a man, if he identifies as a woman, he can go into the female boxing? And the guy's like, yes. Because he wants to affirm his ideology. And then he says, okay, so you're telling me, if this is the follow-up question, if Mike Tyson identifies as a woman, he could fight in the women's division? The politician looked, he has to stay consistent with his ideology. He's like, yes. Let me tell you something as a professional trainer. That is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson would literally kill women in boxing. Do you want to see women die? It's complete insanity.
Do you really care about them?
It's complete insanity. You're telling me that Mike Tyson, who men can't even last 2 minutes with him in the ring. We're talking about one of the hardest punchers in their history of the sport. Are you telling me you're going to turn him around and you're going to let him hit a woman?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
Yeah.
So his ideology has left physics and logic.
Yeah.
Like once
you're a zealot. At that point, you're a zealot.
Once your ideology takes you out of physics and logic, takes you out of the realm, you've become insane.
Yeah.
There are physical limitations. Now, for instance, they want to allow men. Like in Canada now, we have a new law that if you identify as a woman, you can go in women's sports, and they can't question you. So one powerlifting coach, he wanted to protest. He's a big, bulky guy, 200 plus pounds. He has a beard. He looks completely like a man. He says, I identify as a woman. He went on a powerlifting event, and he broke the world record. He's now the world record holder for women in Canada, the Canadian record holder. The second record holder, the second place, was a trans man also. So men now are the number one in female sports. Well, is that empowering women? I think you're abusing women. I think that's a female abuse. Yeah. If you put a male boxer, look, in MMA there was a man who transitioned to women. He went into MMA, started beating up all these women, like literally concussing them, destroying them. I think that's I mean, I'm talking as a professional trainer here.
That's criminal, right?
I think that's criminal. I think that's wrong. You're putting these women in a dangerous position. They should compete amongst themselves and not with somebody who has an unfair advantage that can literally injure them severely, irreparably, and possibly even kill them. There's one man who actually did a flying knee on a woman, and that woman, I think, he basically caved in her skull. Like he injured her. Like it's inhuman to put somebody in that kind of danger, but they're doing it in the name of their ideology.
Yeah, and I think that shows a type of extremism. And
I dare anybody who actually knows about combat sports to disagree with me, because the only people who disagree with me, there was some guy. He's a famous. He has a famous YouTube channel. He calls himself. Adam Ruins Everything or something. He basically debunks stuff. And he was on the Rogan show. You know, the Rogan show is very famous. And Rogan's a very seasoned martial artist. And he was trying to tell Rogan that trans athletes have no advantage. Thank God Rogan was there, because Rogan was like, hey, that's absurd. That's absurd. It's insane, because that guy is he's like a little nerd who never did sports in his life, and he could tell us about combat sports. Dude, you never stepped in our arena. You know, we have combat athletes that are women. We know the difference.
Once you go through puberty, it doesn't matter.
It makes a massive difference. There's a hormonal difference. Okay, so look, yes, women can work just as hard. They can be just as intelligent. They can be just as dedicated to combat sports, but there are physical limitations that have to be taken into account. These people are putting young girls in danger because they want to exercise their ideologies, but they don't know anything about physics, the physics of fighting. It's insane. It has to be stopped. Women are going to get severely injured. It's insanity.
So, like, as a reaction to the woke culture, there's been almost what they call the red pill movement online. Okay, and we already talked about Jordan Peterson. He was kind of almost like associated with this movement, and then you got people like Andrew Tate, right? I don't know what your thoughts are about Andrew Tate, but what are your thoughts about maybe him or this movement? Is that the right solution to counterbalance this woke stuff?
Look, I think Peterson, honestly, he's not a good example of manhood. I think you can hear in his voice how his voice cracks. How he got hooked on pills. He's a psychologist who got hooked on pills. He claims he has depression, etc., this and that. Okay, I get it. I'm down too, but I don't think I would ever go to. I don't think a man is allowed to be depressed. If you ask me,
you don't have
I don't think
purpose,
a man.
then.
You have a woman. You have a wife and children to take care of. What are you thinking about? Why do you think about you? You don't even exist. If you're a man, you don't even exist. You're a toy soldier, and that's what a real man is. He's a toy soldier. He's out there to get resources for his family. He's a secondary citizen. It's all about taking care of your family and setting up the next generation to survive. You have Allah, and that's your remedy. Now him, if you really had a deep faith, how can you be depressed? You could be down, but how could you have depression? I don't really believe, he says he's a Christian. I really don't believe him. They asked him, do you believe in God? And he's like, what do you mean by God? What do you mean by believe?
Yeah.
I think he's just using Christianity as a vehicle to make money and make them hear what they want to say. If you ask the follower of the Christ, alayhi salam, do you believe in God? The answer is a simple yes.
Yeah.
That's a simple answer. And you can give me nuances
You don't need
after.
to tap dance.
But you don't say, what do you mean by God? God is known intuitively. It's the only and most obvious glaring truth. Peterson is a bad example because he doesn't live the life he preaches. He talks about feminism. He talks about single mothers. He talks about everything we talk about, except look at his home.
Yeah.
His
What
daughter
about,
is a
like,
feminist
Tate?
single
What
mother,
about,
and
like,
she's
this-
propagating
yeah.
everything he preaches against.
Yeah.
He can't even convince his own household. I bet you'll never see Andrew Tate's daughter walking around taking pictures with shirtless guys, random guys, and putting on bright red lipstick. And look, I don't care about her lifestyle. That's her lifestyle. I don't care. I'm not trying to judge her. All I'm trying to say is her dad couldn't convince her.
Yeah.
I guarantee you'll never see Andrew Tate's daughter do the same thing. Never. This will never happen for generations. Why? Because and I don't endorse everything he says or does. I don't.
Because he also promotes that lifestyle, like, you know, expensive cars, but then he's like hanging out with other people's daughters, you know what I mean? And
look,
you know.
here's the thing. He's hung out with Peterson's daughter.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. If my daughter was out hanging out with a playboy publicly, I'd be humiliated. It's a humiliation for Peterson. Peterson hates Andrew Tate for that very reason. It would make my skin crawl to know that my daughter was in his vicinity.
100%.
It's an embarrassment. It's a humiliation. Now people are gonna tell me, no, it's not. It's just no. I'm sorry. It is. Okay. If you're a red pill, if you're a guy who wants to be a man, it's a humiliation. And Peterson knows it. In his heart of hearts, he can sing and dance, and he can use all the words in the vocabulary. He can give me the biggest word salad that ever was. In his heart of hearts, he knows it's a disgrace. And what do you think her husband would feel like? I think at the time she was married. She's going there to talk business, she says. What a humiliation.
What kind of business?
What a humiliation. Okay? Here's the truth, man. It's humiliating. Let's be honest. Me, I'm an honest person. Okay? And I understand it's not fun to say, but let's be honest, guys. Come on. Your daughter is one of 1,000 women that got pulled into this web. Okay? Do you really want to cheapen your family name? And her father's a public figure. Look, I dare, and I challenge Peterson to take a lie detector test and let me be the questioner.
Let's do that.
I dare him. I dare him. I dare him.
Okay, this is an official challenge.
I dare him.
Peterson, you don't have to go on enemy territory. We're all Canadian here.
That's it.
Yeah,
we'll fly to you. We'll fly to you. We'll bring the polygraph. We'll bring the best polygraph guy in the entire country.
Exactly.
Let me tell you something. Be honest. Me, I like to be honest. It's a humiliation. It's embarrassing. He says a lot of things, but he gets no respect.
Oh, yeah. He's lost respect big time.
Andrew Tate has said some wrong things, but he gets people's respect. I agree. He says good things and bad things. I think he goes too far. Look, I believe in being a man, but I believe also it takes a lot of strength to put your woman first in certain. Listen, I'll tell you something. In certain endeavors, my wife, what she says goes. In certain things, but if you ask my wife if we and her disagree on something wholeheartedly, we by default go my way. But I will tell you, as the head of the household, I will most of the time, vast majority of the time, do what my wife wants. Because I want to keep her happy. And I dare anybody, you know what? I dare anybody. Call your whole family at the table and tell them, hey, don't forget who's the head of this household. If they don't go out laughing, you're a real man. If they start laughing in your face, well, guess what? They do not respect your authority. Okay, now if Peterson rounded up his family and gave them a speech about how he's the head of the household, I think they'll all smirk, laugh, and kind of like, yeah, whatever. If Tate did it, they would be like, yes, sir, heard. I think we have to go back to when the man was the head of the household. And not because we want to be tyrannical, because here's the truth. If a man is abusive, you will have a rise of feminism. You should give them no reason to be feminist. There should be no reason why the women want to rebel, because I sympathize with women too. Men treat women badly, the women should rise up. There should be a rebellion.
You know, I feel those aren't men with actually manly qualities, because it's inherently built into us. As you said before, we will sacrifice ourselves. There's no questions. There's there's guys with guns out. Okay, you guys escape, I'll draw their fire. Like, this is built in, you know what I mean, into our program.
The Titanic is sinking, women and children first. Men can never lose this. Once you lose this, you lose the respect of women. Imagine the Titanic is sinking and there's one place left. There's a woman and me. We're the last two passengers. Guess what? I'm going to give her that spot. And I could see the sharks circling. I know my fate. I'm still going to give her that spot. If you answer that you would take the spot, I think there's something unmanly about you.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I feel that, especially the Muslim community, like, we don't want to lose our identity and our values, because it, I think, really fosters manhood. And I want you to comment on these two statements by two of the great companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So one is by Ali bin Abi Talib. He came across some people discussing manhood. And he said, what are you talking about? He said, we're discussing manhood. So Ali, radiallahu an, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the book, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. So Allah commands justice and excellence. Justice is to have a sense of fairness, and excellence is to prefer others over yourself. What remains of manhood after this? Umar bin al-Khattab, he said, radiallahu anh, do not let yourself be impressed by a roar of a man. Rather, if he fulfills the trust and restrains himself from harming the honor of people, then he will truly be a man. So if you look at these two statements, it seems like there's a rejection of individualism, establishing trust and integrity. Why is those traits so important for manhood?
Look, at the end of the day, I wholeheartedly agree with those two statements. And at the end of the day, man is responsible for the structure of society. Women will go as far as the limits that men set. And I know a lot of people are going to find that sexist, but I dare you to show me evidence of the opposite. If women, for instance, want to do something, they need other men to give them the green light. If the men say no, let's say tomorrow men become tyrannical and evil, and they say, women, you know what, you're going to live in this cell. Guess what? I'm not saying it's right. I'll be wholeheartedly against it. But they would have no choice but to go and live in that cell. It would be evil and wrong. The only reason we don't allow that is because other men fight and say no. Let them have these rights, let them have these privileges. There are daughters, there are wives, there are sisters, we love them. But at the end of the day, men have a monopoly on power. Isn't that a fact? I mean, when I look at the world, that's what I observe. Military might, police forces. At the end of the day, yes, there's women, but that's a supporting role. It's always a supporting role. Is there a female Navy SEAL? Is there a female army out there that's that's expanding its territory? It's never been the case. I don't think it will ever be the case. It shouldn't be the case because we want women to be our wives and have children. At the end of the day, we need women to fulfill a role that's superior and more important than a man. We need them to be mothers. Don't give them a reason to hate motherhood. You know, I was watching one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It was the Barbie movie. And the only reason I watched it is because there was so much argument over it, debate over it. Okay. So I wanted to watch it. Honestly, it's probably the most unentertaining, boring, worst movie you've ever seen in your life. But I was very curious. Just want to see what's all this arguing about. The beginning of the movie starts with young girls playing with dolls. And it's like a rendition of 2001 Odyssey or something like that. Okay. So these girls are in the desert, they're playing with their dolls, and they love the doll. They're taking care of the doll, they're brushing the doll, they're feeding the doll, they're cuddling the doll. The doll is the most important center of the universe. They love this doll. You have daughters, I'm sure, you guys have, you give her a doll, she's playing with it for hours. Then from the sky, you see a Barbie doll come out. Now this Barbie doll, her waist is very thin. She doesn't have children. An indication that she's never been impregnated. A very thin hourglass waist. Her bosom is very, let's say, pointing towards the sky. Another indication that she's not with child. She's tall, long, blonde hair. She's a career woman. She's coming down in uniform. What do the little girls do? They look at their dolls and they start smashing them into the ground. They start killing the doll.
Oh my
they love
God.
the doll, and now they're breaking the doll. Now here's the thing.
Yeah, I think there's some also disturbing imagery with that.
Here's the thing. What's more important than a mother's love? Look, you take away a mother's love, and you're going to have a nation. My prediction, not a fact. You're going to have a nation of heartless psychopaths. I never felt a mother's love. I was raised by the nanny. I was raised by AI. That's the future. They're going to have little kids in incubators, and in the future, oh, you want to have kids? Inconvenient. Here's my egg, here's the sperm, mix it in this incubator, and raise it with AI, whatever. I don't want to be inconvenienced. The West doesn't want to be inconvenienced by taking care of their kids. Now it's all about me, my social profile. You know, I don't know if you're aware, but narcissism has gone up 75% since the invention of social media. Yeah. Now it's all about me. I don't have time for kids. So this Barbie doll was like, oh, now I could be this instead of a mother. If we convince our women to be other than mothers, we won't have a next generation. We will go extinct. We will not exist anymore. So I have a deep need to survive it and have a progeny. So that's why I tell my kids, look, if you don't have love between a man and a woman, there is no progeny. You need a man, you need a woman, they need to have a love, and when they have children, they need to care about those kids more than they care about themselves for our progeny to survive. Now I'm doing it for you and you're gonna do it for your kids, and I gave you the philosophy of why you should do it and to promise me that you will do it. But we don't have that now anymore in the West. Now it's like, hey, why would I have kids? I'm a dinks, dual income, no kids. They're living a new culture, a new paradigm, and they're gonna suffer the consequences of it.
And you know, ancient kings, the way that they would like really harm or punish someone, were cutting off your progeny. This was one of the ways that they would like punish somebody.
Of course.
Is that you're not gonna have any bloodline.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And people say, no, kill me, let my kids live. So my bloodline, you know what I mean? So the whole paradigm has shifted.
For anybody out there who has no kids, imagine telling somebody, take my life, not this person's. Imagine how much love you have for that person. Imagine, me, I would have no doubt I would sacrifice my life for my family, no doubt. There's not even a
hesitation moment. Yeah.
There's not even the tiniest bit of question. Imagine who has a better experience. I'm telling you, I love that person so much. Look what I'm experiencing. I'm ready to give my existence, my life right now, my life in this world. And you're worried about yourself in the corner. You haven't graduated to what we were talking about earlier, self-transcendence. There's something more important than me.
And last thing I want to end off with is on the same vein as manhood. When it was asked to Hassan al-Basri, what is manhood? He said deen, so the religion. Why should we take our religion seriously?
Well, have you ever noticed that everything that's halal doesn't harm the family, and everything that's haram does harm the family? Have people ever, look, there's theologians. Theologians are different than philosophers. Philosophers, I'm a philosopher of religion and epistemology. We study, look, imagine the Quran talked about the heart. You would go to an expert in the heart and be like, hey, does this say anything worldly? Like, you're an expert in this subject. If you went to somebody, I don't know, who's an architect, and you're like, and the Quran is referring to structures, you'd be like, hey, can you bring us some input? You're not a theologian, but can you bring us some input? Let's say, for instance, the Quran talks about foods, and you go to nutrition and say, is there any, can you shed some light, because you're a nutritionist, the Quran's talking about nutrition. Why don't we go to logicians and say, look, the Quran is making arguments. Why don't you use the logicians? Oh, sometimes they dismiss me, they say, he's not a theologian. I'm not a theologian. I'm a logician. What's a logician? Somebody who studied logic formally. Why can't I chime in and say, look, the Quran is making certain arguments? And here's the thing, because we've confused theology with philosophy, the Ummah has harmed itself. The Muslims have harmed themselves. There's a great misconception in Islam. Muslims tell me, philosophy is haram. That's an insane statement to make. And it all stems from a misunderstanding. Ghazali wrote a book called The Destruction of the Philosophers. When he said philosophers, he was referring to a group that he deemed blind follow Aristotle. He called them the philosophers. Do you think he said haram, logic is haram? Now the Muslim doesn't know anything about, he didn't read the book. He thinks, oh, well, look, he's basically telling us philosophy is haram. Look at the title. All I have to do is look at the title. It's a complete misconception. He's challenging the blind followers of Aristotle. They believe something because Aristotle said it, whereas Ghazali is saying you have to prove it. It can't just be by authority. You're making an appeal to authority. He's using logic to argue. How could he be arguing against logic? It's a self-defeating position. If you say logic is haram, because philosophy is the formal study of logic. If you say logic is haram, you're using logic to say haram is logic is haram. It's a self-defeating position. I'm trying to argue logically that logic is haram. If you tell me philosophy is haram, I'm going to ask you why. And then you're going to start giving me a logical argument. Well, guess what? You just used haram to prove haram. It's a self-defeating position. You're claiming your argument is haram.
Do
you think Ghazali didn't use logic? Do you think Ibn Taymiyyah didn't use logic? If you're going to make logic haram, why don't you make arithmetic haram? Make algebra haram. You know, algebra is a Muslim invention. Algebra is an Arabic word. The Muslims gave us algebra. Like, how how we've gotten here is, and look, I have my theories on why Muslims adopted these trends, and I think they adopted certain cultures that they took from the Christians. Because that's a Christian attitude. The early Muslims didn't have this attitude. The early Muslims were very concerned about science and mathematics. You know, I don't know if anybody knows, but we had a golden age where it was the golden age of science as well. You know,
Yeah,
people might not know this.
You wouldn't have science today if it wasn't for the foundation laid by the
when Europe was in the
age.
Dark Ages, Islam was in the age of light.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just coin. I'll paraphrase a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says, "Look, there was no greater age of science before or after." He asked, "Why do you think the stars have Arabic names? What do you think? Like the Arabs were the best at science?" Okay. Now today we say, some Muslims say, they write me, philosophy is haram, logic is haram. You're confusing philosophy for blind following of Aristotle. I'm not a blind follower of Aristotle.
There's Aristotle, you know, that type of branch of philosophy, but in general,
Aristotle was a thinker to be admired, but he's not an absolute. He made mistakes, he made errors. Okay. Now, philosophy is not only halal, it should be pursued by Muslims. Muslims need philosophers. So not everybody has to be a philosopher. Not everybody has to be a logician, somebody who formally studies philosophy. We need architects, we need engineers, we need doctors, and we need philosophers. This ummah, this generation, they're going to have a boost of philosophers. Why? Because we're all online now. We're all online and we're mingling with foreign cultures more than ever, and now we have to think rationally. Why do we believe these things? And it's amazing to me that Muslims didn't make the connection that everything that's haram harms the nuclear family. Everything that's halal doesn't harm the nuclear family. It actually helps the nuclear family move along. Yeah. So there's a logic and reason behind everything we do. You know, in the Quran it says, man is not like the woman. You know, there's a difference between a man and a woman. And I thought that was self-evident. But now I'm realizing, no, you know what? We needed to make it a distinction. The Quran needed to make a distinction, alhamdulillah. And today, because they don't have a deen, you're telling me, oh, manhood is following the deen. When you don't have God, anything can be right or wrong. Everything is subjective. Us, we have a book that says man is different than the woman. When you don't have that, take that away. What happens? I might be a girl. You know, one thing secularists cannot answer. And I challenge any secularist in the world to answer me. I challenge any secularist. Tell me the difference between a man and a woman. You can't. There is no logical difference. If God says something, look, there's a famous book called Euthyphro, and it asks the most amazing question. Does God make something evil because it's inherently evil? That thing itself is evil? It has the germ of evil within it? Or is it evil because God said so? It wasn't evil, it could have been good, but God chose it to be evil. Which one is it? I think it's a mixture of the two. Like for instance, it's haram for us to drink alcohol, but in the next world we drink alcohol. Okay, it's a different alcohol, but it's still alcohol. In this dunya, okay, you have X amount of, you have to be married, you have one partner or two or up to four or whatnot. But in the akhirah, you have a different scenario. Okay, it's not inherently haram. Some things are and some things are not. I believe the answer, because people ask me all the time to answer that question. I think it's a mix of both, okay? But if you don't have a deen, why isn't a boy a girl and why isn't a girl a boy? It's all about how you feel inside. So me, I tell my kids, look, you're born physically a man, and I programmed you from when you're young to be a man. So when you look in the mirror, you see a man and you feel like a man. If I raised you to be neutral and let you decide what's between your ears, what's inside your mind, you might choose wrong. Then you look in the mirror and you see a manly body, but you feel like a woman. Why did I create this distortion within you? Why wouldn't I have done everything I can to make you harmonious, your psyche and your physicality? Imagine, would you want to be a woman trapped in a man's body? What a hell that must be. Could you imagine what it's like for a woman to feel like she's a man, but she has a female body? It must be hell. Why would you even risk, you know, they say the mind when it's young, it's the most fertile. You can implant almost anything. Why wouldn't I implant the software to match the hardware? Yeah. Why wouldn't I? That's a decision I made for my son because he's unable to do it. Yeah. Why would I want to program myself that hampers my survival and reproduction? Why would I want to do that? I want my son to be born in a universe where it's unquestionable. It's so evident that he's a man, both physically and psychologically. I want him to have this harmony. Now, for those of you who are going to challenge me on this, first check the statistics. Which group commits the most self-harm? It's the people who their program and their physicality don't match. I'm telling you that it's both nature and nurture, because people are going to tell me, oh, it's their natural state. No, it's also nurture. Listen, I know a lot about Greek history, because I studied Greek philosophy for many years, 20 years. I could tell you that they conditioned the Greeks to behave a certain way sexually. It wasn't inherent in their system, because today they don't behave that way. The same genetics, they have a totally different outcome. In ancient Greek, it was normal to have sexual relation man on man. It was normal. It was actually part of your development. We don't see that today. We find it preposterous. Today we call it something else. Today we call it a crime. Whereas yesterday, they were conditioned to believe it was good for you and it was accepted. And if you read the Greek literature, they're not embarrassed about it in the least.
Yeah.
It's not something underground hidden. No, it's something in the forefront of society, and it's bragged about.
It's almost like a rite of passage.
It's bragged about.
Yeah.
Today, if anybody would do that, they would be put in jail. So you can nurture. It's nature versus nurture. You're born a certain way, but we also program you in a certain way. Believe me, I could tell you about tribes that have programs you'd find ridiculous, but they weren't exposed to other cultures, competing theories. You understand? So when you raise a child, you got to do everything to make them successful. And you have to decide for your child, because your child is in a position of maturation and he's not able to. He's not able to make his own decisions.
Yeah, they're vulnerable at that moment.
Of course.
And then if you have the attitude, what I find is that, you know, a lot of the rhetoric is, oh, don't impose anything on your child, let the child decide everything. But at the same time, you're letting the state raise and indoctrinate through the school system. And then it's like, you don't, just take it easy when they get older. But all this time, where are they getting their ideas?
They want to call them babies.
Yeah.
Meaning, don't say it's a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
It's a baby born with a penis.
Yeah.
Don't say he's a boy. It's a baby with a penis.
Yeah.
It's a baby with a vagina. Because you don't know the gender yet. Why would I subjugate my child to that? Look, they have their philosophies, I have mine.
Yeah.
We have ours. Let them live their philosophy. That's their deen. Yeah. That's their way of life. Deen is a way of life. I tell them, you know what? Don't impose your way on me. I won't impose my way on you. And we'll see down the line if your way is better. We'll see.
Yeah.
You can experiment. You want to do your experiment? But I come from a long line of a tradition. I want to exercise mine. But what I resent is they try to push it down my throat. When I try to draw a line and say, look, that's your way. This is my way. I'll live, I don't break the law. But I don't want to adopt your philosophies, and I don't want to share them with my kids. I tell my kids about it. I don't think we could, some Muslims, they want to shelter their kids from this existence. Like, it's out there. You cannot shelter your children from other cultures. What you got to do is you got to understand why our culture is the way it is.
Yeah.
Why we chose ours. It's not, our way of life is not dumb.
Yeah.
Our way of life, as I see it, is better.
Yeah.
You know what I tell my son? I tell him, if I was of the alphabet, you wouldn't exist. You wouldn't exist. Think about that. Oh, well, yeah. Think about that. It's a recipe for extinction.
And the deen, one of the maqasid of the Sharia, like the purposes of the Sharia, is preserve life, preserve your progeny, preserve your honor, preserve your aql, you know what I mean? All these, you know what I mean? All these things that are the purposes of the Sharia.
Yeah. And look, to go against that.
Yeah. And your deen. Preserve your deen.
But people are challenging those narratives. It's just all listed. We got to get smart and realize we got to reverse engineer. Why are we living this way? Why is there so many Muslims in the world? Why have we been so successful? Well, it's not because we were given something ineffective. There's a reason why we're successful. There's a reason why a certain boxer is more successful than another. He lives a certain way.
Yeah.
He does certain things. Muslims have to sit back and think, oh, wait a second. Why was this made haram? Why was this made halal? What benefits do I get from that? There are benefits. The deen wasn't there to make you suffer.
Yes.
It was there to make us thrive. Of course, to have taqwa, God consciousness, the most important thing. Somebody with a strong taqwa, he won't commit suicide like you talked about earlier. Oh, it's an epidemic, people are depressed. No, that's a lack of taqwa.
Yeah.
You don't have God consciousness. When you have God consciousness, you don't have depression, you don't have misery. Yeah. Only when you're in a state of forgetfulness do you have misery. Yeah. You're so self-absorbed with and I hate to say it, I know people are gonna get offended. My intention is not to offend you, but to help you. If you're not so consumed with yourself, you won't have these byproducts, depression, sadness, etc. You know me, when I get down, I think about people who have less than me. And I tell myself, oh, I gotta stop being a baby. Look what God gave me and look how much He challenged them. He challenged them because they're stronger than me. That's the narrative I have between my ears. Oh, I was like given the easy route because I'm too fragile. I gotta hold my own. Don't complain because I'm given the easy test. That's how you have to, that's the narrative you should have in your mind. That's what we're taught. Now, it's hard to be depressed when you think in this way. But our kids today are told, hey, find your happiness. But he can't find a woman, he can't find money, he can't find luxury. And time is ticking, and his body's betraying him, he's getting older, he's not as healthy as he was before. Oh, life is misery. That's why he gets depressed. That's why he wants to end things. That's why he becomes nihilistic. Yeah. Now, nihilism is more complicated than that. I won't get into it fully, but they're giving their children, when they're born, a recipe for nihilism. That's my opinion. Yeah. I'm willing to debate anybody on this. But I will tell you something. When my kids are born, I'm giving them a recipe for transcendence. There's something greater and bigger than you.
And it's based on a tradition of what has worked.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because if you were to go to your grandfather and said, oh, were you really happy and satisfied with your relationship or your job? He would be like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it wouldn't even register. Like, what do you mean? Like, I worked, I brought for my family, I was married, we had kids. What do you want? You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't even be able to communicate.
Imagine you're on your deathbed and around you is just strangers.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have kids. And you weren't married because you had flings here and there and your husbands or your boyfriends, you know, they're busy with their lives. Yeah. You're dying on your bed by yourself with strangers. The state hired them. The state doesn't care about me. The state doesn't mean anything. I'm just another number. Once I die, they're going to statistic died at this time. I'm going to be a little number on a pad somewhere. When you live the natural life, it's easier to see God.
Yeah.
You know, imagine you live behind a glass window and you could see food and you could see happiness. You could see all the desires you have, but you can never exercise them. You can never enjoy food, or you can never have a relationship, or you can never have kids. But you see all the benefits of the world, but you can't have them. You would feel suffering because you'd be like, hey, I want all those things, but I can't have them. Well, there's another thing a human being has. A human being is different than the animal kingdom. We could see ourselves living forever. We could picture ourselves living forever in another world, in an eternity. But you tell those people, hey, see that thing? You'll never have it. That's what they're telling the secularists. So they live a type of torment. Oh yeah, I have steak, I have relationships, I have, I can go on vacations, I can do these things, but this one I'll never have.
And you know what? Where are we from? What's our original home?
We come from God.
From Jannah.
Yes.
So you're having this desire to go back home.
Exactly. Look, you know what I tell my kids? Yeah. I tell them, you used to not exist. Yeah. And then you came into existence. How that happened, nobody knows. Biogenesis, nobody knows. Not the most atheist, not the most, I'm talking about mechanically. In the Quran it says, you weren't a witness to your creation. You were not a witness. The people, us, we were not a witness. We didn't observe it. That's ghaib. I tell my kids, look, you came into existence and nobody can tell you exactly the process of that happened. But how you used to not exist, one day you're going to die, you're not going to exist. And then you're going to come back to existence. That's what the Quran tells us. Yeah. I have a faith. It happened once, because the secularist has to explain why there was an eternity of nothing, then a flash of light, my life, yeah. And then there's going to be an eternity of nothing. That's what he's promising me. Yeah. I'm telling you, no. There was God, then something, and then there's going to be a something again. I used to not exist, now I exist.
And that's more probable, actually.
We're going to bring you back like you brought you back the first time. Who's going to bring you back? Like I brought you the first time. It already happened. You're living proof that, in science they have something called the anthropic principle. Whatever theory you come up with, it has to include life, because life is self-evident. The fact that you used to not exist, and now you do exist, are you telling me now you're trying to convince me? I find it ridiculous. They're trying to convince me that it's an eternity of darkness after. But what are you talking about? I just popped into existence. Whatever it was that brought me into existence is going to bring me back. Wherever I came from, I'm going back, and I'm going to come back here again. That's why I tell my kids, like you were born once, you're going to be born again. And they're going to try to rationalize you that, no, it's an eternity of darkness. Guess what? They know less than 1% of what knowledge is. Somebody who's truly knowledgeable understands the extent of his own ignorance. That's what true knowledge is. The more you learn, the more you understand there's more to learn. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know, how much mystery there is. The mystery gets just deeper and deeper. The more I learn, the more it gets infinitely deeper. So I know, I have a trust that who God brought me here once, He's going to bring me up again. Everything I saw that was wrong in this world is going to be rectified because I have an innate sense of justice. One day we'll go further into it, okay? But justice cannot exist, morality cannot exist without God. Every great philosopher knows this. Every great philosopher, even the most atheistic philosophers like David Hume says, if there's no God, there's no morality. Now I'm telling you, I don't think we could talk about anything that doesn't exist. The fact that I'm talking to you about morality is proof of its existence. And one day we can go into deeper in that. But I'll tell you something. There is no doubt that I came into existence. It's impossible. It's self-evidence.
Yes.
Existence is self-evident. Life is self-evident. I'm living. I don't need a logical argument. I don't need a scientific experiment. Now I'm telling you, I popped into existence. Whoever brought me here is going to bring me back. Wherever I came from, I'm going to go back to. Now, your Richard Dawkins and your Sam Harrises are trying to convince me with their limited knowledge that no, it was eternal darkness and you're just a flash of light, a sneeze.
You don't have a purpose.
And then it's going to be eternal darkness forever. How do you know that?
Yeah.
How do you know that? You know, in philosophy, that's an ignorant statement because you're saying that no future evidence is going to change your mind. You're affirming something you don't know, you didn't observe, you can't logically deduce. It's just a narrative. It's how his personal feeling. It's a personal, and truly what it is, it's personal incredulity. Life is so mind-bogglingly difficult to wrap their mind around. They're like, oh, it can't be going forever. Eternity is too much of it's too great of an idea for them. They just have a personal incredulity, his own personal prejudice, because there is no logical argument that they can give us, and there is no observation that life is temporary and it's only this one time.
And your mind can only wrap itself around so much, you know, before you have to understand your own limitations and humble yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So last question, what's your favorite submission?
These days it's something called the side choke.
Side choke, okay.
Yeah.
So I want to get afterwards demonstration of
Sure.
the side choke, inshallah. Really appreciate your time. You went above and beyond the call of duty, you know, Coach. You did it. Like, you know, really appreciate the time, the effort, the insight. And we actually want to invite you out west. Have you been out to the Rocky Mountains?
Actually, I've been not Rocky. I've been to Vancouver. I've been to Edmonton. I've been to Calgary. But where are you guys exactly again?
We're in Edmonton.
Edmonton. Okay, yeah. Actually, my brother's fighting there November. So inshallah.
November. Then we got to do this again.
Inshallah.
You know, and if you give us the honor, we would love to take you out.
Inshallah. We'll be in
Rocky
touch.
Mountains, like take you out different places.
Inshallah.
And even one time, bring your whole family. We'll take your whole family because we're all family guys too. So we can, you know, make a little fun caravan or something like that. But I hope we can continue to collaborate, help benefit the ummah, the youth. I think we have a really vibrant community. Like I know you do a lot of stuff with these UK guys. We got guys here, okay? we gotta build our community and inshallah our infrastructure here, inshallah. So
usually when I do stuff is because I'm at a fight there. So on a fight week I have actually more time. But when I'm in Montreal, I'm actually more busy because I'm here two classes a day. So it's just I'm actually less busy when I travel.
Okay, so Edmonton, November.
Inshallah.
We're gonna do this again, right, doctor? All right.
Inshallah.
So all the doctors will be here for you, inshallah. Okay.
Inshallah.
And yeah, I think this was like a phenomenal episode. I think this is an epic episode. We touched on so many things, alhamdulillah. So to our audience, remember as always, we live by the haqq, we die by the haqq, and just when you think life is stuck, tune into life haqq. Assalamu alaikum.